May 2021 tarehe ni 10 mwezi wa 5 mwaka 2021. Natumai kwamba uko salama. Hope you had a very great weekend. It has been a very eventful weekend. Mambo yamekuwa mengi tangu wiki iliyopita. Sasa tunajumuika tena kwa wiki nyingine mpya ambayo inakuja. Natumai kwamba umeamka vizuri. Weather Nairobi. Woi. Hali ya anga. Kudrive asubuhi uone barabara. Njeve nayo. Kazi mingi. Anyway, hope you guys had a very great weekend. Karibuni tena. It's another Monday. It's a new week. And this is a Common Sense edition. Coming to you every Monday. This could be never be a better way to start your week than to start it on the right note with Common Sense edition. With Eric MWANGI. Jamaa yetu hapa anakuja for the second time. Levy KONES. Jamaa wa safari ya Amerika. Natuambia. Ila Amerika kulienda aje. Nasikia alifunganywa kama mzigo ya mitumba. Katumwa nyumbani. Natuambia kulikuwa vipi. Nashukuru sana. Natumai kwamba uko salama kama kawaida. Request on your journey. Please like when you like. I get to know that you're watching us. And I tell you, like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is the Monday of 10th May 2021. This is a Common Sense edition with Eric MWANGI and Levy KONES. And we look forward to engaging you guys this morning. Kama kuna story ambayo nataka tuzungumzie, tuko hapa tayari kuzungumza na wewe. Niambie unatazama kutoka wapi, na pia unapiga share. Kama kawaida, kabla tuanze kazi lazima tuende mbele za Mungu tuombe, alafu tukirudi na kuja kuwapa salamu zenu. Haya, leo Eric MWANGI atatuombea, alafu tujue kazi na kwa vipi. MWANGI, jambo.
Okay. Let's pray. Father, we want to thank you this morning for giving us the breath of life. It is a big privilege, King in glory, and we want to thank you also for giving us an opportunity to work this week, an opportunity to interact with each other. We pray that you're going to be with us. We pray that you will continue to lead this country for us, King in glory, that you will impart our leaders with wisdom. We pray for each and every person that is watching us this morning, wherever they are, whatever their hustle is, Lord. King in glory, bless them and lead them. In Jesus' name we pray and we believe.
Amen. Asante sana Bishop Eriko. Hi. Naona William MWANGI mamka some good morning team. Good morning to you QS Monkey Koi. Good morning. Good morning to my brother. JKT Mumurimi. Good morning. Millicent Tirop. Good morning team Takol Sydney Australia. Tuko ndani. Asante sana Millicent Tirop all the way from Sydney Australia. The land down under. It's good to have you again this morning. Zach Kahudi anasema as tuned in from Kitengela. Thank you. Brovoski Kiprich Junior anasema logged in. Thank you Remy Taros. Good morning. Good morning to you Rashid Abdallah Chamaswet. Morning Roger 039. Roger sir. Cheriat Cleophas, good morning Takol. Good morning to you sir. Stan Melly. Good morning Taklas. Good morning Rodit Kenneth tuned in from Baraton University. Thank you. Salimia to Baraton University. Don Kim ansama tuned in from Mereweta. Asante sana watu wa mtaa. It's good to see you. Muta continue. Ansama morning team Takol tuned in from Coventry United Kingdom. Leo ndio siku ile mind body and soul niko ndani. Asante sana, karibu sana. Munga continue. If there's anything you want us to talk about, this is a show where we talk about you. Anything you want us to talk about, please tell us. Tuambie hapo nataka tuzungumzie nini leo, halafu najua inakwaje. Aska Mebura ansama tuned in from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Asante sana to Canada. It's good to see you. Oshamroti Junior, good morning. Gerald Bitok watching live from Nairobi. Good to see you. Good to see you my brother. Fred Nalianya kutoka Kimumu. Asante sana watu wa Kimumu. Hapo ni mtaa. Asante Don Maverick. Good morning watching from the heart of the capital. Watu wa CBD nashukuru sana kuona. Rashid Abdallah Chamaswed. Model kontu nasema bibi I know. Haya. Abet Saligan hello. Asante James Mutinda. Good morning Bitok watching from Mombasa. Dixon Sambai. Good morning Gerald watching here from Cambridge. Salimia sana watu wa Cambridge. Nashukuru. Pastor Sami Koskei live from Westbridge. Good morning. Kaitit Kabilat. Nikubaya hata Nairobi. Ya Nairobi zaidi. Nikubaya. Mbaya zaidi. It's good to see you. Millicent Sela, good morning. Good morning to you, madam. Millicent Sela, good to see you. Karibu sana. Naona Remy Tarus, good morning from Eldoret. Asante sana. Thank you. Good to see you. Endrin Joroge, good morning. Muso JB, good morning. Bitoken panel. Asante David Kamau. Good morning team Takol. It's another week to make a difference. It's another week to make a difference. In a day, a difference of the day, gets us in a better place. Hope to see you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Naona Mohazab the teacher nasema good morning mzito, imekuwa muda CBD locked. Asante sana Adricha, umepotea sana bana, karibu tena, it's good to see you. Naona Silas Kiai anasema good morning Inapkoi, where I'm watching from following the discussion. Asante sana tu Inapkoi. And Njoroge tuned in from Meru. Muso JB tuned in Donham. Asante sana, good to see you. Thank you so much for tuning in. As usual, request on your journey, please like. When you like, I get to know that you are watching us, and after you like, please share. When you share, you give someone else an opportunity to watch the broadcast. This is the Takol Monday of 10th May 2021 na program with Common Sense edition with Eric MWANGI and Levy KONES. This is a show that we talk about life and money. We also want to appreciate Maridadi Motors for partnering with us. Maridadi Motors for partnering with us. Location is Kiamburu. Kila mtu anaulizanga Maridadi Motors iko wapi? Maridadi Motors iko pale Kiamburu opposite Ridgeway Total. Ukiwa pale unaangalia kijumba kikubwa. Nyumba kubwa sana imeandikwa Maridadi Motors, nyumba maridadi kabisa ya kioo. Ukiangalia pale unaona magari juu, magari ya kifahari kweli. Anyway, Maridadi Motors gives you an opportunity to import a car from wherever you want to import it from. Be it Dubai, you want to import it from Singapore, you want to import it from Japan. Whatever your choice is, you got to import it. And by the way, Maridadi Motors, when you import on Maridadi Motors, you can save up to 300,000 Kenya shillings. You can save up to 300,000 Kenya shillings. There's nowhere else you get such a deal. Up to 300,000 Kenya shillings that you can save by importing Maridadi Motors. Maridadi Motors gives you an opportunity to invest waste money. Kama unakuwa pesa imelala mahali hivyo diaspora. Diaspora naona wengi hapa Australia or Canada. If you're in diaspora and you have some money which is lying in your bank account, you can put it, you can invest, because you cannot buy 100 cars, but you can buy one car that they can sell on your behalf, and you get to make 15%, up to 15% per annum on the money that you invest. So weka pale pesa yako ambayo inalala mahali iweze kutengenezea pesa. You never get any such a deal anywhere else. Benki inakupa hadi labda ikienda sana 10%. I'm 11%. Okay, Maridadi Motors is giving you up to 15% when you invest with them. Import to sell model by Maridadi Motors gives you an opportunity to invest your money and get one up to 15% returns per annum. Maridadi Motors Sacco pia inakupa nafasi ya kuweza kuwekeza akiba. If you want to save your money, you can save on Maridadi Motors Sacco. Kama pia unataka kununua gari kwa kuweza kuwekeza pesa zako, weka pale asilimia 50 ama 50% zile ile value ya gari ama dhamana ya gari ambayo unataka kuinunua, alafu ile nyingine 50% unalipa mdogo mdogo ukiendesha moti pole pole. Maridadi Motors gives you an opportunity to import to sell, give them an opportunity to save you money, and also gives you an opportunity to import a car and save up to 300,000 Kenyan shillings in the most transparent deal. Unajua shida ya magari siku hizi, watu wanasemanga watu wa magari ni wakora. Haya, ukienda pale Maridadi Motors, testimony yako itabadilika na utaweza kuweza kwamba umeweza kupata zile deal na kazi ambayo ni nzuri. Kama pia unataka kuosha gari yako every Thursday na kuanga kibarua pale Spa Clean Motor Spa pale Siata Mall nyuma, Sparkling Motor Spa by Maridadi Motors. Unaenda pale unangarisha gari yako safi kabisa. Wacha kuosha gari yako na gunia. Pale inaoshwa na mashine, gari yako inang'ara safi zaidi. Alafu pia kama unataka kwenda driving school, kuna Maridadi Driving Academy. Sio driving school, Driving Academy. Hiyo sasa ni inaitwanga, mimi nilisomea polling station. Eric alisomea academy. Pia Levy alisomea academy. Mimi nilisomea polling station. So kwa hivyo unapata nafasi ya kwenda driving academy, ndio driving school, so that you can be the best at what you do. Uweze kuwa unaendesha gari maridadi, unanunua gari maridadi, unafundishwa vile kutengeneza gari maridadi, na pia very soon kuna kuja na Maridadi Service Center. Gari yako yote inazunguka hapo na inaweza kuwekwa kwa hali njema zaidi. That's Maridadi Motors for you. Alafu pia kuna nafasi ya majamaa wa airtime. Unaweza ka airtime yako 325 hiyo ni business number, alafu account number yako. Account number ni nambari yako ya simu. Unaweza kuwekeza pesa, unaweza kununua pia tokens ya stima pale, alafu unajua inakuwa vipi. Anyway, Eriko, good morning.
Morning to you, bro.
Good to see you.
Same here.
How's your weekend?
Very good. Kupumzika tu.
Any reflection? Nilikutafuta ukakuwa sijui ulienda, ulikuwa umeenda kula pilau.
No. Nilikuwa nimeenda kukula pilau ya rafiki yangu. The daughter was getting married pale Red Hill. And it was a beautiful wedding, and I think it's good now to see weddings are coming back. I think life is beginning to move on now.
Free food
after Corona.
Celebrate free food.
Free food. Yes. And free food and a free dessert. Hey. Unajua sisi tunatoka harusi kama keki imekatwa. Sababu kama keki haijakatwa, mnaenda keki italiwa na nani? Bibi harusi na bwana harusi pekee hawezi kula keki wakiwa peke yao. So
lazima kwa hapo ndio murambe zaidi. Inakuanga saa mzuri sana, unaona kila mtu ameinua shingo wakati wa keki. Anyway, I've had a very great weekend, and you're ready to start off the week?
Yes, I'm ready to start the week.
Okay.
This is going to be the second week after the open up of the economy, and we are looking forward to interacting with
How are things been?
Of course, things have been very slow. I think the lockdown is not just physical. It just doesn't stop people from moving from a block to a block. I think it also gets mental.
Yeah,
when
sure.
People are told there is a lockdown. Sasa kila mtu ukiongea na yeye huko nje anakuambia wacha kwanza hii lockdown kwanza itolewe. Wacha kwanza hii lockdown. Sasa imetolewa. Sasa tunawapigia tunawaambia ulikuwa umesema
itolewe. Kwanza watakuwa na deni yako, nasikia ngoja hii kitu itolewe kwanza.
Unawaambia sasa imetolewa ni aje.
Anyway, Levy.
Yes sir.
Safari ya Amerika. Uko salama habari weekend?
Good morning. Uko salama kabisa.
Umetoka Eldoret ama ulikuwa Nairobi?
No, I've been here.
Unajua ni mtu bana, nasikia saa 9 asubuhi tunasikia I'm living in Eldoret.
Eldoret ni nyumbani.
Around,
so kwenda huko ni rahisi.
Okay.
Kwenda kurudi.
Weekend ilikuwaje?
Ilikuwa salama kabisa. Hamna neno. We thank God. It's very slow weekend though. This time.
Was it?
Yeah, I think when it rains it kind of makes things a bit drab, but
but it was crazy from Friday or Saturday evening. It was bad. Kwa mbaya sana. Anyway, sisi hata sisi tulikuwa tumeenda kula pilau. Tulikuwa kwa baba yetu mdogo hapa. Tulienda kutulivaa kitenge.
Pass the invite why?
Yeah. Unajua sasa najua kuna mahali ukiitwa ni kama kuna mahali unaenda pole pole.
Ama kadi imeandikwa pale chini.
Imeandikwa chini
valid for one person.
Valid for one person. So nikasema sisi ulisema ulikuwa mchele pia huko, nikasema waje tusaidiane kukula pilau pande zote. So tulikuwa pale, tulikuwa tumevaa kitenge. Tumekunywa fufu soup. tukakunaitwa ni jollof rice. So tunangoja sasa ya Nigeria ndio labda sasa wewe Eric na Levi ndio mtaenda huko. Sijui kama ulikuwa umeenda mchele pia Levi.
Mimi sikuitwa.
Ukuitwa?
I don't know who. It's surprising who are called and how are they called. I wasn't even aware.
Aya.
And I thought in this Nairobi I know people, but
now you know you don't know.
Now I know I'm discovered I don't know any.
I think there's a restriction on the number of people who should be invited. So
yes,
so the people who know people are here.
Wacha tujitetee hivyo, lakini saa head the pilau on your behalf and we want to congratulate June Ruta on your inaitwa unajua everybody is calling Rorasho. I was surprised when Eldoret nasema ati tunaenda Rorasho. So people have adopted even Kikuyu names in the village. Ati Kivendi Rorasho. Nashindwa ala unaendaje hapa? So hata ya Nigeria unashindwa kama taita na Rorasho.
To nationalize some of these words so that we have a point of reference. Because sasa Rorasho utasema nini kwa Kiingereza shule? Dowry.
Yes,
dowry payment.
Ama tubadilisha sasa ikiwa Rorasho.
Sasa unajua ukiweka payment inakuwa hiyo ni biashara.
Okay. Yeah. I think one of the best things about that was that it was an indicator that life is going on amidst COVID.
Yeah,
sure. I think it's for all of us really. It should be a good thing to look at and say, despite everything that's going on,
we are back at life.
There are also some happy things.
Yeah. Sure, I think that's really. But anyway, ongera watu muone, pendane. Lenye ngapo alisema nini? Watu wafanye nini? Anyway, so any reflections? We have been lazy this week. We didn't have a book to review. Kama pilau zilituweka sana busy. But any thoughts of the week that you had, Eric, over the weekend?
No, I mean, just that thing of, I think we need to have people move on with life and accept that the new normal is COVID. We just add COVID, pale chini kwa list of human diseases that we know. And continue to take care of ourselves. We always take care of ourselves from other diseases, typhoid, cholera, these are the reasons why we are very careful on the water we drink and washing fruits and washing our hands before we eat. We just add COVID pale chini kwa list. We continue to take care of ourselves, wear the masks, but we have to continue with work. And I'm very excited. This week the kids are going back to school. I think it will be another very important test as the kids begin to assemble in school from different homes, so that we can be able to see how much more resistant we are to the transmission right now. I'm very happy that also a lot of teachers have been vaccinated. I remember when I took my parents to get the jab, there were a lot of teachers also getting the jab. There were a lot of people from the religious institutions getting the jab. I think we just need to be more aggressive in getting the jab where it is available, and we continue with our lives because we can prevent A and cause B, and I think that is what has been happening in as far as COVID is concerned. We've had containment measures that were preventing the virus from spreading, but poverty was spreading, depression was spreading. And all that, and I think we need to confront life as it is. Yeah.
Okay, and also it's important to note that the jab was one, so they've gotten one jab.
Yeah.
One is still missing.
We're
still negotiating to see if we can do a cocktail or we start afresh.
But it's coming. They said it's coming this month.
Another that is pill visa or whatever. We still have AstraZeneca.
The one by Ministry of Health, MOH.
Anyway, AstraZeneca nasikia zote zilisha India, but let's wait and see. If you have a cocktail, fine. If you start afresh, nasa madungwa?
Not yet. I have not had an opportunity. That time when I went, they told me they had only 7 shots.
Okay.
And I had presented both of my parents, and there were other old people there. So they told me that for you look relatively younger. So you can wait for the next round. So I'm still waiting to get.
You're actually younger. Anyway, Levy, any reflections of the week?
A little bit of anxiety and anxiety because I have a Form 4 student in my house.
Wow. Who is doing or who did?
Who did?
Wow. Okay.
So
you're sitting on one area of your.
So all of us are anxious. This week we are waiting for Magoha to say something. We see what as a parent, of course I'm very anxious because I'm anxious if she does not do well inakuwa pia shida because unajua I was telling her you need to do well because even if we look for money and we look for nikiingia mahali na una credentials siwezi kuwa vizuri. then I'm also anxious because if she does very well again, pia ni shida.
Itabidi ukoe sasa. Itabidi ukoe pesa sasa. Itabidi ukoe pesa.
So, but we are happy that schools have started. And one of the things I was thinking about this weekend was about the issue of procrastination. And I think for me, I was in a webinar where people were talking about this habit of postponing things that we do. And I think that's the one thing I would just like to share even with our viewers and our listeners is that time is not waiting for us. Maybe this and you alluded to it by talking about watu wanasema ngoja COVID ishe. As tunangoja COVID ishe,
time is moving. You can never recover that time.
Time is going. So what you can do, just do. Start somewhere, do something. Don't say I'll apply for a job when COVID is over. I'll put my money in your investment here, Maridadi. When COVID is over, do it now. Do everything now. Because if anything COVID has taught us, we only have today. We don't know tomorrow.
Hapo kwa weka pesa kwa Maridadi umefanya vizuri. Tafadhali leteni pesa kwa import to sell model. Leteni pesa kwa sababu wakati inaenda na hiyo pesa bado utakula naye mandazi ama utakunywa dawa ya corona. Wala unajua pia bazi imerudi. Hivyo sherehe nasikia jamaa anaanza sherehe saa 2 asubuhi. Ndio ishikane na ile masaa ya usiku. Ni kama vile ulikuwa unaanzanga saa 2 jioni ndio umaliza karibu na asubuhi. So siku hizi wanaanza pia saa 2 asubuhi mpaka 6 jioni. Kielekea 7 hapo tayari basi. Sherehe ishaiva. Anyway, my reflections was about the government initiatives, taxes. I think we are getting more tax loads. The other day I saw the government is planning to start taxing swinges ya kudungwa. We're having several tax accounts that the government is considering as it tries to raise its budget. And as much as we sit here, we also do things on the side. We do business, we do all these things. That affects us. We also eat. Even if you don't do business, you eat. When you go to buy food in the supermarket or in the kiosk, that still affects you. Some more. It still affects your budget. It still tilts the way you do things. It still affects you in a big way. And I think even as we talk about the pain that people have been going through during the pandemic, it's even sad that it gets worse. From the fact that when you imagine that you want to start recovering if your business has been collapsing now, you're saying, okay, let me try and let it kidogo kainuke. The government is still on you. And I mean, these are conversations that we cannot run away from. Administration and governance is a conversation we cannot afford to stay away from. And I weep for people. I receive messages every day on my page about people who are crying out for help. Yes, we have our own struggles as well. We fight. And I keep asking myself, if some of us struggle with things the way we struggle with, how about that man down there who has lost their job, who does not have anything to count on, nothing to lean back on, and all that. And I keep really thinking, like, if we had a system that could think about that person. Because you realize that in this country, the poor actually are the people who pay taxes. When you talk about taxes being increased, not for the rich, it's the poor who pay taxes. When you talk about deals done by big companies exempted from taxes, the tycoons who are just bribing their way through KRA. When you talk about taxes, we talk about the poor man who is being taxed. And I think it gets worse. The welfare of the people is really crazy. There are people who have not been able to pay rent. And these are Kenyans who are supposed to continue living. I don't know. It really bothers me that we have to go through this.
It's interesting you say that. I'm supposed to go to the taxman tomorrow. I have a meeting with KRA tomorrow. And one of the things you've mentioned there about the poor man is really a concerning issue because I just found out this year that the KRA put my PIN number on the VAT list, personal PIN number. Because some time ago, 2017 or something, I did an MC work for someone and I was given withholding tax. Then they put me on a VAT, but they didn't tell me. And now they want it backdated all the way and for me to have paid VAT every month and there are penalties. You know those things. And it's amazing how even the taxman is going out of its way to come up with crafty new ideas to continue taxing people who are already
paying taxes.
It's just crazy. Just think about it. You are running this thing on social media. And they're coming after social media too.
Imagine.
Soon you will not be able to even put any content on any social media site without government saying we want to munch something out of it. Yet we are supposed to be creating what they said was an enabling environment for people to do business, create jobs, that kind of thing. Because there are no jobs in the first place. So those of us that are trying to make something like this gentleman here started this thing, you're doing your My Daddy Motors and you're employing people, we should be encouraging such people to really thrive. But unfortunately, the holoi poloi, we are on our own.
It's very sad. Anyway, Eric, what do you make of that? Actually, I keep sharing these stories with you that I come across. I don't know what you think about it. Kenyans are suffering. We should be talking about tax exemption. We should be talking about
There is need for serious engagement, and I think even when you talk with people who work with the authority at a personal level, they can see the disconnect, and many of them can actually see the drain that this is causing in the economy, and many of them agree that there's a need for their policies to be reviewed. But I think one of the challenges that we have is that there is no proper consultation between how the policies are made and the people on the ground. There's no. I think we've given the example of the Cobra effect before, on how sometimes if you leave government to operate alone without interacting with the people, it is going to come up with policies that make things worse. At the end of the day, the issue of taxation is an issue of common sense. Of course, the government needs money to run. But then again, businesses also need to lower their costs of operation for them to be successful. So if you tax, and I think many of the people that work with KRA now also agree that, is it right to tax a business to its death? Yeah, would you kill a business so that you can be able to raise the maximum tax from that business today? And if you do it today, how sustainable is it?
What will you do tomorrow?
What will you do tomorrow? Are you going to pick another business and begin the process
And
of
kill it
killing
again?
it? And, we all know how difficult it is to make a business stand. So, and taxation definitely is going to target those businesses that are standing. If we kill them, what kind of morale do we send to the entrepreneurial community of Kenya? Are we encouraging people to start enterprises, or are we discouraging them to start enterprises? And, it's not just about the taxes, it's also about the very many other levies that go, with the county governments, the parking fees and all that. So you find the moment somebody starts a business in this country, the rent seekers are just too many. Yeah. So it becomes very difficult. We are saying that about 70% of our employment, the hope for employing people in this country is actually the small businesses. So it means that 70% of our policies should be geared towards that sector of the economy. Now, if that is not happening, it means that people will not start businesses, and when they start businesses, those businesses can be killed, and we will be killing jobs, we will be killing the posterity of the country. There is need for better engagement between the government and the people.
Okay. Anyway, tuendelea tu kuiombea, nasemanga ombeeni serikali yenu, ombea viongozi. Ifika mahali pia viongozi watuombee, kwa sababu sisi ndio tunaumia zaidi kuliko hao. Anyway, Levy.
Yes, sir.
Tupige story bwana.
Sorry.
Tupige story bwana.
Yeah, you called me here for story.
Tupige story bwana. Watu ulivalishwa ndege kama mitumba. Kama beli ya mitumba.
Hii story umezavuta sana.
I discovered it. I was just googling. I was looking for you.
Yeah.
Just trying to find it. Then I don't know. Hey, never KONES deported.
Hii story. What did you read there?
No, I didn't want to read because I love stories. I wanted to get it from you. So I just saw Levy KONES deported. Nikasema, wachana hiyo kwanza.
From the horse's
yes,
mouth.
Nikasema, this is a business for another day. Yes.
Okay, so this story begins sometime in 1998. I think some people may not have been born who are listening, but
especially Eric.
Yeah. No, I was in Form 1 in 1998.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Oh. I was 22 years old in 1998.
Wow.
I think that can put my age in perspective. Look at this gentleman.
Nimeshanga na kuna mtu hapa amesema uslide kwa inbox. Nimeshanga hii hapa kitumana kidogo. Haya. Endelea.
So it was shortly after I had dropped out of MTC. When I finished Form 4, I didn't perform very well, but my father wanted me to be a doctor.
Okay, by fire by turn.
Yes, and he had connections with he had a friend, Suji, who was, I think, the director at that time at MTC.
KMTC.
So, yes, KMTC. So without me applying for anything, there was a letter at home saying that I should join KMTC. Nilikuja nikaambiwa unaenda kufanya clinical medicine. So I ended up in KMTC.
Ulikuwa mpata nini biology?
Biology. I think I can't remember. Must have been a B- or something like that.
So you had done well, relatively.
I don't think it's no. Those days people are really getting A's, considering, and especially in that year, people had really passed. So I had not done well in terms of even in my own family, because even my own sister had done exceptionally well the previous year. And my father was like, I'm the eldest son. He just wants to get me somewhere. So I went to MTC. I keep passing on Gong Road and seeing my former cube in MTC. And while I was there, I discovered I didn't really like this thing. Anatomy, biology, unafanya physiology, you're doing a lot of lab work, which I really hated.
Chinja machura.
Alafu, around that time they had begun opening some discos up or Hurlingham. So I was a regular at the discos and not so regular in class. As a result, I got discontinued.
Okay, at KMTC.
Yeah, I didn't do exams well. And when I got discontinued, I never said. So, unajua wale watu wanakulanga fees.
Ndio wewe sasa. Wanakaa kama
wale watu ni kama mimi. Nikakula fees one time, but soon after, of course, my father, because this was his friend, the situation could not be tenable. Of course, he talked to his friend. He discovered I wasn't going to school, and he was very upset, and we fell out. Now, my sister had gone to America about 2 years before, and I was so interested in going to America. She used to write to me and tell me, hey, America vile iko nini, everyone has those dreams of this America and how it looks like.
The American dream.
Yeah, so she applied for me at school, and I got what they call the I-20s, a letter the school sends you for you to now pursue a visa using that letter, so that now you can get a chance to go to America. It didn't look like I could go. Nobody really thought I would get the visa, because getting the visa used to be, and still is, I think, in some degree, a very, Herculean task. Unapanga, unaambiwa, utasema hii, sijui nini, you bring these documents, and what is a long story. So, I went to the American embassy. I remember it was the 13th of October.
Wewe mwenyewe ulikuwa unashughulikia?
Yeah.
You are doing it on your own?
My mother helped me. Your mama, God bless mothers, I'm telling you.
Yesterday
although mzee alikuwa amekataa stories zangu, mzee alikuwa ananipatianga.
Alikuwa na rada yako.
Ndiye alikuwa court of appeal.
On that note, happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers. Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers.
Mzee alikuwa kwa kona yangu. So she would give me like transport, and ananiambia una apply nini, how much does it cost, napatia hizo do, mimi na chase hiyo story. So I went to the American embassy. And interestingly enough, even the questions I was asked, we were just talking about that, were very simple questions. They asked me, what are you going to study? I'd applied to do sports medicine, which I did not know was what, because I wanted a course that to just get me out of Kenya. That wasn't being offered, excuse me, in Nairobi. So I got the visa. When I got the visa is when I told my dad, things have been happening, nini, na niko na visa. The mzee was very surprised. And
akaona kijana finally ni kama
amejaribu
amechangamka.
Tuone vile tutasaidia. So Harambe was called. Those days, and I don't hear Harambes right now much.
Kwenda ngambo.
Ziko lakini zinacheza na chini kidogo.
Kwenda ngambo, lakini kulikuwa na Harambe ya kwenda ngambo. And I even remember it was held in Highlands.
Highlands Tea Hotel.
Unajua Highlands Inn hapo?
Kericho.
No, Eldoret.
Eldoret. Highlands Inn, yes, katikati hapo.
Yes, the Harambe was held.
The old hotel.
Right opposite.
That old hotel, yes.
Yes.
Near karibu na Magas.
Yeah, and there is some money. It wasn't so much money, but it was enough to cover a year. A ticket was bought. I got on the first plane from Eldoret to Nairobi to go to, to now connect to go to the United States. No, actually, it was a day before I flew to Nairobi, and after the following day, I was going to America. Now, this journey to America starts with a bit of a problem, because on the day I was to leave for America, and the flight was around 11 p.m., a friend of mine called me for, some sherehes. And then we had an uncle who happened to give me, I think it was 3,000 shillings, something, which was a very big...
Ukasema sherehe lazima tupige leo.
Sherehe tupige mimi nenda US.
Nenda America, madola.
Tumezunguka the whole day, tukijivinjari, tukiambia, all and sundry kwa heri na mambo kama hiyo. And by the time I got back home, when I was supposed to pack at 4 o'clock, I was drunk. In fact, so drunk that my brothers had a hard time trying to cover me from mzee noticing. Wananifanyia parking nini. By the time ilikuwa nafika 6, nilikuwa nimelalala kidogo, but still the smell of alcohol was very pungent. And my father had said he's not going. In fact, he was so upset. Alikuwa ameita, unajua wazee wa kanisa wako hapo bana. Wale wa mama ni wa maombi wako hapo.
Nataka kuombea jamaa, na jamaa ko gauge mbaya.
Na jamaa ko gauge. somehow mama prevailed on him allowed to acha tu kijana tu aende na nikapelekwa airport.
Alikuwa amesema hakuna wewe kwenda.
Alikuwa
You're not going
amesema
anywhere.
kwenda hii tabia no. But she said sawa, alikuwa they bought the ticket, they have already invested, they've paid part of the school fees. I think they realized acha aende tu, maybe he'll change.
It's a lose game.
So I was put on a flight.
Sasa hiyo bado uko maji.
Bado niko gauge. I don't remember much, incidentally, about the flight to France. It was to Paris and then a connection to
the US.
To Atlanta. I don't remember that first one very much. I just remember I was in France at the airport looking around, the connection flight. Long story short, I got to America. And my sister, I got to Atlanta, then took a connection flight to Kansas City, where my sister was waiting for me. And my life in America began. I vividly recall that when I landed in America, I thought America, it smelled like of leather, like of unajua leather ile gari
Ngozi.
Inanukia
ngozi.
America has a smell, and incidentally, Africa has a smell.
Oh, really?
But the Indian smell is the worst one.
Unarufu gani India?
Ni mbaya. Na no ni waindi poleni, lakini
kama adhiriva
uko kwenu ni mbaya.
Ni kama adhiriva.
Ni kama
na mahali ukifikanga pala adhiriva.
Uliwahi pita Webuye pan paper hapo? Ukienda Bungoma hapo pan paper ni kama hiyo. It's terrible. It's terrible. If you're going to India, please prepare your nostrils. So especially New Delhi. Sasa nika ingia America. I was ready for the life. My sister was already working and going to school. I was taken to school the following day. Nika check in. There are so many white people in my class. I'm mesmerized with what's going on. Bana tuko ngambo saa hiyo. Hata kizungu nimeanza kubadilisha.
Umeanza kufinya mapua kidogo.
And I started going to school. In those days, you could go to the US and get a job really quickly. They would give you something called the social security card, which is like a PIN number kama ya KRA. Which would enable you work. And it was much easier than now. I understand siku hizi wamekazia students sana. So when I got that immediately, I was helped by a friend, a Kenyan guy who was there called Ed. This guy really helped me by the way. He used to drive me around even when I had no vehicle. Ed Gidinchi, alikuwa boy wangu sana.
Ed Gidinchi. Bado yuko huko ama alipandishwa kama
alirudi baada ya kwa Nairobi. I hope he's listening by the
inafaa angekuwa kuja hapo kwa extra zira tuambie story yako. Angetuambia ile nyuwezo tuambie. Unajua kuna utakanyagia. Kuna nyuta utakanyagia kama na slippers. Angetuambia.
No sitakanyagia, nitakwambia ukweli wa mambo. So mimi nikaanza kufanya kazi kwa warehouse. I'm doing warehouse job. Things began to turn when I began involving myself in too many parties, lifestyle.
Sherehe tena.
Kwanza unajua huko kuna hizi vitu zinaitwa strip clubs. I'm telling you my friend. Ukijua kujua Sodom, enda kwa strip club. Niliingia, unajua mimi I was the son of a pastor. Yani I remember the first time I went, I was so shocked that I actually went back home and repented. Mungu waki.
On your first dawn.
But you go again until you get used to such things. And then you start joining yourself in parties. And it starts having a toll on everything else. Sasa shule naanza kuhata. Naenda maklasses zingine siendi.
Unapeleka mambo ya Nairobi, unapeleka Amerika.
Ame-export tabia.
Sasa tabia imeendelea hivyo. Eventually I quit school altogether.
Okay.
And now I'm working full time. Which is one, a violation of my visa. And two, I was now working illegally because there are so many hours you're supposed to work, but I now surpassed them. I was now doing 40 hours instead of 20.
Simba kumbe ulikuwa unajikaza pia. At least you're working. We're working hard.
You have to work. Actually in the US, let no one kid you. Who will give you the money? It's not like here you can go and live in your relative's house and do nobody. You have to work. It's not really something you clap for. It's a must. So about a year in, I had already moved out of that state. Nimeenda kwa state kubwa sasa. I'm in Atlanta. Nataka kuwa na wale wa Kenya mabazu. Ninunue gari, nianze kujivinjari, and things went on. The first sign of trouble I got was when I first got my first running with the police.
Okay.
And it was because of driving under the influence of alcohol. And I was given a warning and fined and taken to court and had to do community service, and for 8 months. Community service ni ile unaokota takataka kwa
street,
kwa highway. And then you're cleaning toilets and things like that. And it wasn't a warning enough for me because I got a second one. When I got a second one, my license was suspended. Along with a hefty fine. And you unalipa for so long. And I was not supposed to drive a vehicle, but I went on driving a vehicle. So between that time I thought the state I was living in
ulikuwa kichwa ngumu sana.
Hii sasa kama miaka 2-3 zimeenda. The state I was living in nikaona hii state iko moto sana. Let me move somewhere else. So I went to Chicago. And there are 2 friends who moved in with me, 2 ladies. So we were 3 of us living in one house together.
Azuna.
As roommates.
Okay.
Bro, boss. Haikuangi hivyo ati.
Nimeuliza swali mbaya Eriko hata kama ungeuliza swali tena.
Yeah, sorry, it has a lot of weight here, but on the other side I think
as roommates and prayer partners.
Yes, ndio sasa.
Sasa around that time I got a job with Motorola, but I was working in the Motorola in the warehouse department, and I was a very good forklift driver. Forklifts nilikuwa naendesha nikiweka pallets nini because here I learned how to drive pretty early in life. So nilikuwa ule mse. It was paying a lot of money. You know, people, the menial jobs in the US, if you are good at them, you can really make tunes. Plumbers, carpenters, you know, people who are doing those kind of tasks.
They make a lot of money.
I was up to now $18 an hour.
Wow.
So I could really afford a better lifestyle than I was affording. And I do remember thinking at that time that this is the life. So story to
this is the American dream.
Nikubadilisha tu sasa madem. You're not serious, utaki kuwa yote, so kishikana na huyu after some time ni huyu.
Mechoka na huyo.
That kind of thing.
Another new shape.
Yes. So there was this one lady I'd been seeing on and off who used to live in Minneapolis. And ex-Moijian. She's still out there in America. This lady, I would drive to go see her 4 hours every now and then and come back. So this
time you're driving, you're still banned from driving.
I'm banned. I'm banned. Lakini si unacheza nini?
Cheza kiwewe.
Unacheza chini ya rada. Hopefully utashikwa. So I went to see her. And I do remember we went we went clubbing and things like that. Alafu tukakosania kwa club. I'm not so sure tulikosania nini because I was pretty drunk. But I remember her telling me usikuje kwangu. And I was in a strange town. So I knew another lady who lived another 2 hours away from that place.
You always had plugs ready.
So I thought, wacha niende nione huyo. On my drive, and this was about 2 a.m. in the morning, on my drive to go see this lady, I've now been 6 years in America. In my drive to go see her, it was in February of...
You're already 6 years?
Yes, this is February 2004. I got so tired, nikakuwa sleepy, nikafikiri sijui nilale, sijui nifanye nini, so I pulled into a motel. Nikisaka kubook room, nilale. Because unajua ukishikwa drunk driving is very, very serious. What I used to pay for that room was a credit card, and as identification, I used my passport, which was expired. Now, you'll remember this is after 201, when the Americans were very on edge about such things, expiry of passport. So the guy who booked my room gave me a room, and he called the cops and said, kuna jamaa hapa, foreigner. I could not find my American driving license for, I don't know for what reason. I guess it was just an act of, it was my 40 days were up. And he called the cops.
He called the cops on you?
Yeah. Mimi nimeenda kulala, mimi sijui hata cops wameitwa. So mimi nimelala. Several hours into my sleep, my door was burst open by askaris. Later on, I was to find out that kumbe they had been knocking, but I wasn't hearing. Nilikuwa nimelewa sana. So wakafikiria umse ako huko ndani, anajiami. Maybe he wants to, like, you know, give us a shootout or something like that. So they came in all guns drawn and nini, niko kwa kitanda nimevaa 2 shorts na t-shirt.
Kumbe ni mzuri kulala na nguo. Kinaza umena.
That short and t-shirt story is very important because it comes later. So I was arrested with my sandals. Arrested, nikapelekwa kwa cop station na nikaambiwa sijui, initially it was about my expired passport. But on further digging, because when those guys arrest you, fingerprints nini wanaangalia wanasema, hey, this guy is not even supposed to be driving. This guy even dropped out of school. They find out everything about you, when you landed, where you went, which issues you got into, all that kind of thing. So the immigration department were called. I was now an immigrant who was out of status. I was transferred from that town to Minneapolis, where there was a big immigration headquarters there. And that began the journey of coming back. First, I was jailed.
For how long?
For 6 months.
Okay.
And it was the most harrowing 6 months of my life because they keep you in those days. They would keep us in those cells where you had no cellmate until no one you could talk to, and you get a few hours a day to come out to the sunlight and you go back in.
Wow. For 6 months.
Yeah. So I don't know what's happening. I almost went crazy by the way. I remember playing ISO games. I don't know whether there's some people who played that game for start stops. You name, car, country, animal, something. I used to play such games and I read the Bible a lot.
Ndio ulianza kurudi sasa safari ya
Nilipiga simu to my sister. I told her what had happened and told her not to come and see me because they tend to also go after, relatives and things like that. So she told my parents back home, and my father began the process of trying to see whether he could get me back. And that time he had become a politician, but although he had run for an election and not won. But alikuwa amejua watu. So akaanza kuongelesha watu huku Kenya, mabeste zake wenye walikuwa na yeye kwa hiyo chama yake. Ni kidogo. Chama
gani KANU ama ilikuwa nini?
Ilikuwa that time it was NAC. 202 NAC.
Okay. Yes.
So eventually I was called after about 3 or so months and told that my case was under review. Nikarudishwa. I don't know what's happening. I'm not getting any phone calls. I can't make any phone calls.
Uko tu.
Maisha yangu tu America tu imeisha. And by that time, by the way, wazungu wameniambia kila kitu niliwahi fanya. Kila mahali niliwahi fanya, is also, I have a list of charges against me. Working illegally, driving under the influence, driving with a suspended license, which is a felony violation, by the way, and many other things. I should have served some time, more time than that 6 months. But
walikuhurumia ama ni Mungu wako tu?
Walikuwa
wamekurumia ama ilikuwa Mungu tu sasa?
No.
With all those charges.
With all those charges,
they give 6 months.
There was a gentleman that time who had become a cabinet minister who shares a name with me. The late KONES. His children and I went to the same school. I'm not we have no affiliation because I am Sabaot and those are Kipsigis guys.
Oh, you're Sabaot. I've always thought you're Kipsigis.
I'm not Kipsigis. I have even written a post about that on Facebook.
I've always thought you're Kipsigis.
People tend to think, but you see the funny thing is because I went to school with his children and we were very close, people tended to assume I came from that family because of my name. So even now, even when he passed on, watu walinipigia kuniambia pole.
Pole sana.
Sasa saa zingine
unasema tu asante.
Unasema tu because unashinda uta explain nini sasa. This guy really liked me. I think because we used to visit his house so much and I'd gotten to know him and stuff like that. So he really went out of his way to try and get me back. He calling the Kenyan embassy huko nini and everything. So eventually they agreed with the Americans. Huyu kijana amefanya makosa yake nini wacha turudishe nyumbani tu. So I was called one day. It was towards August of that year. Told that I'm flying to Nairobi today.
Sio siku ingine.
Plane ticket iko hapo. Na nikapelekwa Minneapolis airport. Put on a flight, KLM flight to Amsterdam, and then Amsterdam, Nairobi. And arrived in my shorts and the t-shirt. After 6 years. And nothing. No bag, no nothing.
No dollar.
No dollar. I have not, done what I had gone to study. I have no money to my name. And I am now 28 years old, or 27 years old and something, almost 28 at that time. And I have nothing. Boss, let me tell you. When I arrived, I remember my father picked me up from the airport. He was just with my mom. One of the most surprising things was that in my arrival, I was a much heavier person. You got a prison food, uko pia iko sawa. I was a much heavier person, so they didn't even recognize me. Later on, my mom was telling me, walikuwa wanazana mzee, nani huyo kweli? I went looking like an athlete and came back, looking like I beaten several athletes. So, my father was not impressed. I mean, look at my life. It had been a life of not really doing anything impressive. And
you'd really messed up.
Yeah, really messed up. And we drove straight to Eldoret. And I arrived at 11 p.m. Can you imagine driving straight to Eldoret? Yani hata kulalishwa Nairobi, got to out. My dad, he didn't even talk. Drove to Eldoret. I arrived in LD. Wase wa LD walikuwa wanasema sana kunihusu. Thank God there was no social media because ningekuwa trending huko tops. But I was trending in my neighborhood. And for the next few months or so, I had severe nightmares where I would sleep thinking that I am in America only to wake up and see that I am in Kenya. I tried entering my kwa kanisa, kujihusisha na mambo ya kanisa, but anytime I talk to especially the ladies, the mothers were quick to call.
Naambia achana unajua mtu alirudi na kinyasa kutoka America.
It was by the way, people who are deported are really stigmatized. And sometimes, you know, they are not deported for very huge things. People said drugs, nini. Paka I used to ask them, kwani nafikiri drug dealer ataambiwa to go back home? Even here, we don't deport drug dealers. We jail them here for many years. You know, so there are so many of those stories abounding. And as a result, I got into severe alcoholism.
Wow, tena.
Yeah.
You relapsed.
I was now depressed. I was depressed and completely, what's it called? Dissatisfied with how things had gone. So nikarudi kunywa kwa sababu sikuwa na pesa, nikakunywa mpaka changa sasa. Kabisa. Up to the time I ended up in rehab.
So changa ulikuwa unakunywa wapi?
Si hapo tu mtaani.
Una pesa. Mount Elgon ilikuwa wapi? Ama Eldoret tu.
Una kitu. No, initially I came na nilikuwa Eldoret. Nikakaa Eldoret for some time and after kidogo nikakuwa dispatched kwenda kwa shamba. Unajua sasa hata unakaa hapo, imagine you're 28 years old, umerudi sasa kwa nyumba ya wazazi.
Guy from America.
Kutana na mzee kwa corridors.
Kila saa.
It's very sad.
From America.
You're a reminder. Yes.
You become an example of how not to do
life.
Yes,
how not to do life.
And even your brothers are told, you know. And let me surprise you, by the way. This thing is so bad that even now, it doesn't matter what I'm doing now.
Wow.
Every now and then, even my own brother still finds, japa kama tulikosana December na mmoja na kaniambia kwenda ulideportiwa wewe. It's still an arrow.
It's still on you.
It's an arrow that can be used at any point, at any time, and especially, you know, by those closest to you, to jab at you.
Yes.
So it's not you know, there are people who
you don't get over it.
Yes. So that's how I came back, and I had to begin again from scratch. By the time I got my life together, I was 36 years old.
Wow.
And but my life.
So you've not given us the real part. What? I mean, how did it get to that point where you needed to now get to rehab?
Yeah, it's I had a friend who went to rehab. His name is Walter. He's in Australia now. Who I used to drink with. Alafu akapotea. Wale wase kwa den wakapotea too once. Then he went to rehab, and after he came from rehab, he was very committed to his cause. And he told me, "Bana, bro, you need to go."
So you've been drinking for how long at that time?
I'd been here now since 2004. That was now, by the time I went to rehab, it was 2010.
Wow. For 6 years?
Yes.
Hey, and there's something with you and 6 years. Kuna kitu na wewe na 6 months. 6 years. 6 years, 6 months.
Do you know?
6.
In the midst of that time, I had tried to do some things to try and come up. It wasn't always that he always drinking. Kuna radio station ilianza Eldoret, nikakuwa what's it called, presenter for your radio station. Ruben Kigame.
Fish FM.
Was starting a Fish FM. He really took a liking to me because he had seen me in church, trying to do some things there, you know, organizing youth and stuff like that. So he gave me a job. But that job was a bit frustrating because at that moment in time, that radio station was not making money. So I wasn't making any money. We had names, but no money. But I still used to go to work with something like this.
Kwa redio ya kanisa?
Kwa redio ya kanisa, lakini
unapiga kanywaji?
Niko gauge.
Uogopi Yesu bwana.
Akiti kuna upala. I think viewers are even surprised.
Yeah.
So
imagine kanisa unapiga kanywaji.
You're managing your drinking.
Yes.
Because it's the only thing you can hang on to at that moment in time that can give you some sense of because you at that moment look by the standards of the world, 1, I'm not married, big fail. 2, I have no degree, big fail. 3, I went to America, wasted my parents' money, and I'm back. You know,
bigger fail.
4,
you came
I have
back
no
with
job to speak of that is you know, something that can put so I am failing in every degree. And people are noticing. Yet I have some semblances of brilliance. You know, every now and then, you know, I'll go and MC somewhere and people will say, "Oh, you really have a good voice. Nini wacha tukupatie kakitu unapatiwa 2K unachapa hiyo." You know.
Unaingia unarudi kwa mama pima unanyorosha.
So really my moment of redemption, you know, people say going to rehab is a terrible place, but I think one of the best things that can ever have happened to anyone who is in addiction is to go to a place like a rehab because it really resets your thinking. Na ile rehab mimi nilienda was one of the most, what was it called? Backward rehabs there are. Ilikuanga hapo Eldoret. Siku hizi nasikia hata iko na power. Haikuwa na power. Haikuwa na maji, ilikuwa inachotewa kwa well. We would the first day I went there I ran away. Nilienda huko na nikatoroka usiku. I can't be reduced to this. They had pit latrines, unajua. And I was thinking, "Wow, will I really stay here?" And it was supposed to commit to stay for 3 months. But after I sat overnight and thought about it, I thought, let me just go and try. Why don't I just try and see? After all, I had another problem of never finishing anything I had started. And my father's words rang in my head. Ujaimaliza kitu. I thought, wacha sinimalize rehab tuone. So I went back to rehab.
So going to rehab was your own decision, so from your own volition?
Yeah, there was nothing to lose by going to rehab because at that moment in time I had hit rock bottom.
So in fact it was
How
good
old
for
were
you to get free food.
At the point of going to the rehab?
I was 32 years old.
Wow.
No, 33 years old.
3.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So then, no, 34 years old. Sorry, I was 34 years old.
Wow, interesting.
Rehab, yes. So and after I came out from rehab, 2 things happened in rehab. One, I had a candid conversation with God that I'd never had. Unajua kuna ule Mungu unaambiwanga na watu na kuna ule Mungu wewe mwenyewe
you encounter.
2, I came to a hard place of reckoning with my own self and my own mistakes.
Okay. So after running away, you went back again, the rehab?
I went and I stayed for 3 months.
Okay.
And I even got a certificate. It's one of the best certificates I've ever gotten in my life. It started an avalanche of things because it's after rehab that I now came out and now started doing a few things with my life, you know. I started looking for, places I could go to school. I started now looking for jobs, and people really coalesced around me. You know, people sometimes there are those people who hear you've gone to rehab and they shun you, but then there are people who hear someone has gone to rehab and they realize this person is trying to redeem himself. So you tap into that and try to help them. I had great favors from that point in time. You know. Even that I ended up in the field of journalism was a sheer act of blessing after blessing after blessing, and people seeing that and recognizing we need to help this guy in this place and this place. Yeah. So I really am grateful for those people that took it upon themselves to try and really build me back up.
Maybe you can appreciate some of them?
You know?
A couple of them?
Yeah, some of those people that really helped me at that time. Well, one of them is Kevin Okwara. We fell out at some point, but...
Uliona scandal.
Uliona story. Yeah. We fell out at some point, but there was a point that he was there for me, and I appreciate that. You know, Ruben Kigame really helped me post rehab. You know, and there's a guy called Walter, who's my friend. Is
in Australia.
Walter Kinduya is in Australia. We are still really good friends. This guy really walked with me, yani. Unajua ile a man speaking positively into another man's life and saying, you know, you can really make it. And then of course there's my mom. Unfortunately for my dad, he kind of washed off when I got into rehab, but I understand. I had been let down for so long.
He was fatigued.
Alichoka na hiyo story. And it's how do I put it? It's in the story of my life when I look back. In fact, you guys have made me really reflect this morning, because sometimes, you know, you live and forget.
And you forget, yes.
Well, you don't really forget, but life inachukua vitu mingi, so you don't really.
You start creating other different memories. You start having different problems.
Yes, but now when I sit down here and I think about it critically, I really realize that the impact and the direction that my life was going was not a good place. Maybe if I stayed in America, who knows, I would have come back in a box. My sister later on passed on in the US, and I do remember that I am the one who introduced her to alcohol and drugs.
Wow.
And she passed on because she was murdered by a boyfriend, but they had been drinking. There was an episode before that happened, and I carried a lot of guilt for many years because of that. Because
So you also doing drugs?
Sorry?
Umenisikia. Why are you doing drugs?
Weed.
Kwani weed si drugs? Weed.
Drug is
Sasa unajua ukisema drugs mtu anaona ni heavy things.
Hata wewe mwenyewe umesema drugs, so I'm like okay.
Wewe unarukia, unapenda sana kurukia mambo hapo So hizo bangi 1-2. I never really took much up on maybe because I didn't have the money, but I never really tried the other things, heroin, cocaine. Maybe if I'd made more money or run into other people,
You would have explored.
I don't think I was averse to try. I think I would have tried. But I just think, thank God that
At least you didn't go through that.
But I think for purposes of the younger people that could be listening to you, it would be good for them to understand that nobody really plans to start taking the hard drugs. They always start with a softer one.
Oh yeah.
Starts with that alcohol, then it goes to the weed. Then before they know it, now somebody
It's something bigger.
Something bigger.
Yeah.
So and the earlier it can be arrested and stopped,
The better.
the better.
True.
Yeah.
True. And I remember even when I first started, it was a neighbor's bottle. And I think we were 14 years old when we first had Kionjo. There was a neighbor who worked for the breweries, who used to leave some crates huko nyuma ya his compound. I remember me and my friends jumping over his fence and testing. We didn't like our first test.
Inakwanga hivyo.
But
Kwanza
tulianza kuikubali.
the more you have it, the more mwili inakubali.
I don't know why people force themselves to these things, but that's what happened. So that's who I am. That's part of my story, and I own it. It is part of.
Of course, yeah. We have made our stories, and I think the most interesting thing about you, Levy, is the fact that you've accepted your story, and that's a very difficult time for men, because I feel like until you accept your story, you can never change it, because the fact that you accept this is my story, first of all, you're acknowledging that it's a story that you don't want, and you want to live out of it, kubadilika, but still it's what makes you, because there's a way I look at things, and the more you interrogate life, the more you realize that you're who you are because of what you've gone through. Every other thing that you've become is because of something that shaped you. There are things when you're growing up, we imagine that we wanted to have them differently, probably maybe have different families, have different upbringings and all that, have different experiences, but I'm sure us, even you, Levy, as much as the story sounds the way it sounds like, when you look back, you realize that you could not be sitting here without the story. You're here because of what you've gone through. And it has shaped you. And there are things that gives us some rude awakening. I think for a man it's difficult to change. It's difficult to progress when you don't confront yourself. Until you confront yourself and you say, this is who I am and I don't want to be this person.
And imagine it constantly. There's times it reminds you. For example, when I got cancer, for example, and I was looking for help from people and thank you to everybody who gave to my cause at that time. That was 2017. There was a lady who wrote to me a message when I was in the hospital. She texted me and said, I've heard about you getting cancer. If what I'm hearing is true, then I hope you die painfully.
Wow.
It was one of my exes.
Wow.
It was somebody who I had greatly hurt.
Wow.
In my 20s.
Wow.
And again, when I after last week we talked about the whole story of Slim Possible. After I proposed to my wife on Slim Possible, the following day, kulikuwa na court case from another lady, the ex. But apart from that one, there was another lady again from my past. This lady went to, and she was quite. She was from a very well-to-do family, and one of her people was in the government. At some point, she had loaned me some 50K when we were dating. Unajua ile loan unapatiwa na msichana una date alafu unarusha huyo msichana na ulipi pesa yake. Hiyo pesa. And I want to tell young men, chungeni sana. Do you know this lady got the OCPD from LD there to give me a call to tell me hiyo pesa inatakana leo. Let me tell you, the things I have seen that have come from my past over the things that I have done that have been the consequences of my actions. Sometimes I see it back and I don't blame people, because it's not that me I was the greatest of people. I also know that in the prime of my life, I also used and discarded people. So sometimes when people have done the same thing to me, I have taken it as what goes around. Comes around. I believe that we live long enough to get every piece of nonsense we give out.
Wow.
And if we give good things, we also live long enough to
see good things coming back.
The times I have done some good to people, I have seen it returned as well. There are people who stood by me when I had cancer who I did not know, who decided to get on board and and push for me. Some of them even in hospitals. Unaenda kwa hospitali, you're at the reception, hata kurukishwa line. Kuambiwa daktari atakuwa nini lakini wewe kuja kesho. Those kind of things. You get favors where you're not even supposed to get favors. And I've seen those things happen. I've also seen those things where people have also kept some some bitterness for some things that happened in the past. And I always say, it's best for them. Everyone can deal with their own bitterness and the things that happened to them. The way I'm doing myself. But I also take note of the fact that in the life of alcohol and addiction and where it took me and my journey to America and back, there are people I hurt along the way. Big time. I can imagine for my parents. I'm a parent now. When you invest in a child and you want them to go to college and do well, and you really feel hurt when this person does not, achieve the potentials that you expected them to achieve. And sometimes maybe they took loans for that for that to happen. You don't know. Me pia sasa mi kwa vile I can borrow money from a friend like you, and my wife might never know, my child might never know, but they know they're just going to school. Those kind of things. And I think when people disappoint you, those things really come to their mind. Like, say any
alinifanya hivyo
hata hizi realize ile sacrifice imepitia ndo imfanyie. And because of me, my father once mentioned to me, it is you who made your siblings waingie kwa hii mambo ya pombe.
Wow.
He may have been wrong or harsh, but he was also right. Because I was quite an influencer also in my own home. So I learned a lot of lessons from what happened.
You're the first born, you said?
Yes, I'm the first son.
What are some of the things maybe you have done? Like, when you say you've hurt people in the past, have you gone to apologize to some of them?
To make restitution?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. When you look at maybe the negative things that you may have influenced your siblings into, are there things you've done today to try and correct that?
I have, I have done to the best of my ability, and I keep still doing. When you there are those people I had to write. One of the things about the steps when you go to rehab is you go through the AA steps, and one of them is making amends. The 12 steps, and in making amends, first you come to a realization that you are helpless over this thing that's happening to you. You talk about how you are you need a higher power, and those are the easy bits. And then you get to the places where you have to make amends. I think it's a 9th step or something, and you make restitution to the people that you hurt. So where I was usually, you write a list of people you think you have hurt, and then you try and look for ways to make with them. And they tell you there are people who will decide to talk to you, and there are people who won't. But as long as the Bible says, for as long as it depends on you, make peace with all men. Yeah. So as much as it depends on me, you try to do that. You reach out to so and so, you tell them, okay, I'm sorry, I did XYZ. I'm sorry, I did, this kind of thing. So I have done that, and every now and then, if I bump into somebody who you might not have put on your list, who you remember, you're like, hey, lakini wewe, you try and people have been mostly gracious. Most people are forgiving. A few people are not, but I say again, that's on them, and also the things that happen. For example, let me give you an example. Shortly after I came back from the US, sasa nimeingia kwa mambo ya pombe na nini. One of my father's friends gave me a job here in Nairobi, and he was a surveyor, and I wasn't in the surveying field, but he thought, let me just help this kijana, put me there in charge of transport for his company, and gave me a house in Aga Khan. He had some apartments there, but he put me up on the top one. So I was managing that apartment. Apart from my job where I was doing transport logistics for him, I was managing this apartment and collecting money for rent for people who were coming there. I made my own receipts.
Wow. 10.
And cooled his rent.
No, shut up, rehab?
For a month. No.
Oh, okay.
Not see rehab. I'm saying shortly after I came back from
just came from America.
Yes.
With your short
t-shirt. Let me just something to do. So mimi, I made my own receipts. I'm trying to look for money. Nimetoka kwa mambo ya pesa nyingi, my own money. I'm also now trying to hit the ground.
To keep the same
and so I'm balancing that story. It didn't take long for him to find out. I think by that time I had swindled maybe 90,000 bob.
Wow.
Or something. I remember how this guy looked when he told me that I have to leave. He was broken.
Wow. Betrayed.
He was broken, kabisa. It haunted me. Even when I got out for rehab, I sought him.
What did he tell you when he was telling you to leave? What were his words? He
told me, kijana, siku moja utakuja tu kuelewa.
Wow.
This is not how we do things. Umechukua wenda tu na hiyo pesa. Yani he did not.
He was heartbroken.
He was heartbroken. Yet he was a man of means and had a reputation for dealing very ruthlessly with people who crossed him, but he did not.
Do anything to you.
So shortly after I left rehab, I sought him out. And I sought him out with his money. And he did not accept his money. But I remember when he forgave me, I wept. But the relationship was never restored. Do you understand?
Yeah.
It is a big regret that there are things we do to people along the way that we can never get back.
Yeah. And we always mind that we'll always find a way out.
Yes.
Like you'll not be caught, maybe you'll win a mjanja sana. I mean.
Yeah, and you think, uko na ujanja mingi hapo, nini, but there are those things we do that we will never get back. And you can't blame those people. So in when you're in those things and you're doing whatever you're doing, I don't know who's listening and what they're up to, but when you're in the throes of, especially people with alcoholism, who are selling people's things, most alcoholics, they get to that point. Unauza radio ya mama, umeuza TV, sijui umechukua mlango, sijui nini. There's a guy who sold a door ban.
Lingwa mlango.
Oh yeah, tutasamehea.
I didn't even know they were nini. I work with a lot of people who are addicts. I really try to give back in that. So I listen to a lot of stories from mamas and stuff. Mama comes home na kuna mlango.
The mama kunywa mlango.
The mama kunywa mlango. Ndio soko ilipigwa aje pengine. So there are those things you do that people will just never
forgive you for them.
Well, they'll try to forgive you,
but they'll never meant.
But they would rather not deal with you going forward. I mean, how sure are you?
Wacha nikusamee tu lakini wewe kaa huko mahali.
Lakini wacha tu tusameane but we keep a distance. So those are some of the painful lessons I can say that we learn as we go, and that is why I take relationships now very seriously, because it's because of relationships and networks that I am even seated here today.
Yeah.
People have given me opportunities even after rehab, and I really appreciate the people who have given me opportunities to sit where I have been seated without maybe some of them, maybe if they knew my story they'll be a bit different, but some of them have known my story and still given me an opportunity. Those are relationships people must really keep, and you would die to make sure that they don't get broken, because that is the real value of life, is in the relationships you maintain.
Wow. Do you think you can actually, a human being can run away from their past? Is it possible?
From what?
From your past. Is it possible to run away?
No. The past shapes.
So everything you're doing today, you're conscious of the fact that it will come back to you.
It shapes us.
So what would you tell someone who is doing that? Because most of the time we have a sense of oversight. Like I can step on his toes and your story, then you move on and do all those things. Like you create a chain of people you acting out and you think it's okay. Like it's fine. Like this thing will never catch up with you.
Yeah. If you're doing it unconsciously, it's different. If I step on you and I did not know, you see, that's different. But if I step on you knowingly, even my conscience tells me, umechokora so and so. And God put it in us. Even people who say there's no God, they surprise me, because how is it then you have a conscience of good and bad?
Yeah.
Good has to come from somewhere, bad has to come from somewhere. So you can run out from everything, but not your own thoughts. Your own thoughts will convict you. Hey, here, you did so and so wrong. The best thing is to try and make amends as quickly as possible. The biggest thing would be not to do it. Yeah. But we are in life. We are doing it every day. We are fighting with our spouses. We are co-signing with our brothers, our sisters, maybe workmates, things like that. The best thing would be to try and make amends as much as it depends on you.
Yes.
Again, because you can try and make amends with somebody who's not interested. What do you do? You accept that hapo umechoma, imechomeka. And to use Donald Trump's words, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Right. Eric, before I throw it to Eric, so when did you actually stop drinking? After rehab? You stopped from rehab? You stopped kabisa?
After rehab, I had episodes. What are you saying? Do you know that they say that? Let me tell you. Do you know they say that part of what's it called? Of recovery is relapse. The thing is, look at the statistics. 15% of people who go to rehab actually stop drinking. 15%.
15%.
85% don't.
They go back.
It's not a magical pill. But what it is a turning point. So what happens is this. Okay, right now I'm not drinking. I'm not drunk in so long. I can't even count. But the moment that it ever happens again, and here's the thing about the fallibility of man. You leave rehab, and many guys have left rehab. Then they have a drinking episode. Then we say, amerudi hapo kwa hiyo mambo yake ya kawaida bure kabisa nini and we send that fellow with our own condemnations back to the deepest pits that they came from sindio and even the fellow himself is also what's he called condemning himself personal condemnation so you accept that it's possible that you can fall and if it's possible that you can fall and you fell the first thing you do now is pick yourself up immediately you see the thing was it wasn't that the art of drinking was the problem because the problem is people say okay Levy did you do all these things because you drank no I was a bad person the drinking just helped me execute my evilness
It's a software problem.
you know it's not an issue with the nini
With alcohol.
you know there's a joke told about a guy who was drinking and then he woke up in the morning and he had a crate of some empty bottles and then he's so remorseful about what he has done so he's picking a bottle and anasema wewe ndio ulifanya nikosane na bibi yangu anapaswa wewe ulifanya nisiende kazi anapaswa wewe ni he smears the bottles then he gets to a bottle inside there that's full then he looks at him and he says you are not involved anaweka kando
hiyo hata pasua
huyo hakuzika so you see he's blaming the bottle but the problem is him you see that's what we divert from the real
from
issue.
the issue.
Was the issue they're drinking there are people who are drinking every day and they are fine gentlemen and fine ladies there are some like me I say Mimi I realize that for me drinking only executes some madness so if you feel that it and you get to a point where you tell yourself this executes my madness then you step away from it if the Bible said that if your arm causes you to do sin cut it off sindio
True.
so if it is the bottle na unakosana na bibi na unapata sijui kwenda job sijui nini what happened remove it from your repertoire do something else so that's where I can say where I am but yes I did have some moments of relapse and I powered back I can only say now I'm only at a point now that I can stop and sit down with people who are drinking and look at a bottle and not have a drink with them because I'm in a place where I had never been to before. A place of actually, how do I put it, of self-discipline and realization that I am the issue. I am the controller of my own destiny. You know, and it is not something else that is controlling that destiny for me.
The choices you make are the things that you make.
So when you look at a young man who is taking your route, a 22-year-old man who is starting his first staircase to the path that you took, what do you feel? And what would be your words to such a person?
Sad. I keep telling, I told you I work with people who do, there's a ministry we have in our church. It's called the Triumph Ministry. It's a ministry for people who addicts, even people who are not addicts who are curious about maybe they're having a drink. We have a discussion and then we talk about the steps into addiction. So let me just say that first before I answer you. So there's one where you're drinking every Saturday. You don't see, there's no problem. Every time there's a holiday, maybe you have a drink. You really have no problem. It's once you don't care. Between those days, you're not drinking. Then there's a second step where you're doing it now every weekend. Maybe Friday, Saturday, unaitwa. You have a thing with your boys on Friday, Saturday, or with your ladies, and it's good for you. But between the week, you're not drinking. You still have some control over the issue. Then there's the one where you begin doing it every evening. So 5 o'clock, ukifunga job, unaenda kuchapa. Na asubuhi, utatoa lock. You're beginning not to have control over what's going on. Because now, for you to now talk to people, you must unlock yourself. I don't know why they don't call the 5 o'clock lock to unlock. So unafungua lock. And then now you get into that aspect where you are now having it in your job. It's in a teacup like this one. It's under your table. You are driving when you're doing it. You have it at work in the handbag. Kuna watu, there are ladies with a handbag imejaa vitu mingi lakini pia kuna kakitu hapo ndani.
Kakitu kadao.
So and then you do it so that you can talk or get some confidence or something. And then now you go into now the full-blown thing. It's the stages. So I ask them, which stage do you feel you're in? It's an assessment they do for themselves. It's an assessment no one can do for you. And we have a questionnaire, 21 question questionnaire, where we're asking, do you drink every Tuesday and Thursday? Do you do this? Are you occasional? Blah, blah, blah. You answer for yourself and gauge yourself and ask yourself, where am I at? And the sooner you do that in your 20s, the better. Because ironically speaking, the 20s are the most productive years of our active beings. After we reach 30, 40, we are sort of waning. Our mind is active, but our active being in terms of both mind and physical body, we are most on fire at 20, 25. Those guys can work till morning. Those are the same guys who are clubbing Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they're still at work.
They're still working, yes.
You try that.
You
try that. You can't do it. Your body is already telling you, hey, hata kesha tu unalemewa.
Inaitisha detox.
You drive to Eldoret and you feel tired when you could have done here and back.
Ngepiga hata mpaka Mombasa.
Yes. Sometimes I've driven to Eldoret and slept halfway. Nimefika Nakuru nikasema
hapa sifiki.
Acha kai. Sasa sita tunaenda wapi? Those kind of things. It could never have happened when I was 22, 23. So because of that and because we're in your 20s, we try to talk to them. Unfortunately, for many of our young people, much like myself who was young, a lot of us want to make our own mistakes.
Not to learn from other people's mistakes.
So I tell you, there's a portal here, you're like, apana, me, I'll negotiate better than
mine is a Subaru
than you did. So me, wacha ni, you don't know how to swerve on this story. Then you end up, in trouble. But for those who listen, I really feel for them. And let me tell you, it's interesting we talk about alcohol today because, and I would add, and drugs, of course. The number of people in alcohol addiction is so extensive that we are at a point where it's like HIV. You either are infected or affected. Look at your homes.
True.
You have a cousin, a brother, a sister, an auntie who can't cope with their alcoholism. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
But we have shunned them as people who cannot think, who cannot,
cannot control themselves.
What's wrong with them? But they have gotten into this thing over time. It was not a one-day event. And they have reached a point where they need help. Some of them are in denial because of some of the things happening around them. Some of them are in denial because they also have an issue with themselves. But unfortunately, the healing process, for everyone who is listening, who even is an addict, cannot be started by anybody else than the addict themselves. You have to come to that point of realization. So I ask people, if you're 20, gauge yourself. Where are you at in your social status? Kuna watu wanakulanga the same way we say. Some of us, like me, I struggle with weight. Mimi nikiangalia hata 2 chips na kuku nikipita hapo tao.
Nasikia mwili unatetemeka.
Na naona.
Nasikia anazita 2 chips na kuku.
2 chips tu nikiangalia tu.
Leo kanazunguka
tu hivi. Shida.
Naona shahidi wakio.
There's another guy who can enter and kula those things and he doesn't add weight.
Yeah.
True.
So we have those guys. My brother is one of them who follows me.
Yeah.
This guy eats everything. But he's like an athlete. Mimi nikibomoa tu chapati 3, you'll see them.
Kwisha, utaiona ikitokea
mahali. So you have to ask yourself, who am I? Am I the person who can have a drink and have a conversation? And then there are warning signs. If you drank today and tomorrow morning you are unaware of some things that happened.
That you did last
people night. Are saying, hey, mazee jana ulikuwa unatuchekesha na ukumbuki. Jana mazee ulikuwa na shout sana na ukumbuki.
Ulikuwa unaongea English
na ukumbuki.
Ulipromise watu kazi.
Question mark.
Ulichukua masivi. Unapata masivi kwa masivi unashindwa ala.
There is a problem. You need to start gauging and asking yourself, what's the issue here? If you had a drink last night and you have woken up next to someone who you do not know, hata jina yake ujui,
alert.
Unaanza kumuuliza,
by the way, nani?
That's serious.
Tujuane. Hadi asubuhi.
There is a problem. If you have done it and taken your rent, you have no money in the morning. There is a problem.
Yeah.
If you have had to borrow and you're now in debt because last night uliomba Mshwari, ukakula KCB M-Pesa, ukaomba sijui nani for the drink. And in the morning you have all these things that are popping up that are Madenis, and you have all these what's it called, ideas that don't work. Unajua Levy kuanga na idea moba asubuhi. Mazenda pita hapo ni unganishe na hii itaingia. That never do happen. There is a problem. And so I think self-assessment is the key, and I wish we could start it even in schools and put a subject the way we put a subject for all these things we are doing, history, maths, we should put something about life skills, and have people come there and give the students something to think about. People who have been through situations such like mine, guys who have come out and been successful, and guys who have failed, so that they get both stories and realize that this is a bad thing. Because imagine, my brother, imagine unasomesha mtoto, unampeleka academy, university, anaingia anapata job, ashapata degree, alafu anaangushwa na pombe.
It's very sad. It's disheartening.
Do you know it's the one thing parents cannot control, and they don't want to talk about it. And even in our churches, we are shying away from that story. We are all talking about my son wants to be a doctor, a what, but we are forgetting that there is a monster that can take that
dream down.
How many, I saw a newspaper article, Juicy, how many 40-year-olds are at home? 35 to 40-year-olds.
Wanakaa nyumbani.
Wako na wamama kwa nyumba. Hata jana kwa Mother's Day walikuwa hapo.
Wako area.
Mama atajui atafanya nini na wase. Wase wako tu hapo na angaliana. They moved back home. They were saying in this Nairobi, boys in the servants quarters, uko nyumbani, vijana wako kwa nini, and it's affecting ladies, yes, but the boy child is particularly harder hit with issues to do with addiction.
And actually there's someone who was telling me about a story about a brother who has become a menace at home. The guy is 40 something, I think almost 45 something. They still at home. Kazi yake fracas. Sumba madhe almost madhe na kuisha tip. And this guy was brilliant.
Yeah.
He was once employed, was doing times hata jamaa bana anatoka connected. You can imagine before your own mother. So I think it's a serious crisis. And I think something else that you mentioned is the stigma that comes with this, and the fact that we condemn these people to a corner. They're like, no, let them deal with it. And now you mentioned it about the way even your own family had given up on you. Like, man, bana, wewe staki story zako. Do you think it does more harm?
Yes.
Okay.
It does. I really wanted to hear something encouraging from my dad. Even when I was in rehab, he didn't come. Madele kuja religiously. I wanted to hear him just say, man,
keep it going.
Soldier on. Do something. He didn't. And it tells me, and the role of a father is very important in the
life of a man,
in the life of a son. And it was a terrible thing, because even when I had cancer and I was about to go for an operation, he came to my bedside and he talked to me about unajua sasa you have cancer, anything could happen, ujajenga nyumba.
Wow.
How do you think things could be if it goes south? He was more concerned about what the family would look like if he died. Than and I don't say this to shame my parents, but I say this because I want to lay it out here in reality, because these things happen, people don't talk about them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And people don't say, my family could be messed up in one way or another, and also that we have these struggles with parents, and struggles with how they perceive us, and we are all looking for what's it called, some sort of validation from your parents.
Yeah.
For the son, the father aseme tu kitu mazi.
Asema tu jo, I believe in you.
And I want to tell that to even siblings, brothers and sisters. If you have a person who's an addict, even if they have drank yesterday and they sold the TV, you speak life to them. Tell them, I know you did something bad, but I know inside there's a good person. Because these people are talented people. They are people who are mostly very sharp guys. I mean,
and smart people actually.
I was in rehab with a DO. I was in rehab with a headmaster of a principal of a big school. And I was in rehab with a manager from one of the parastatals in this country. I mean, all of us, I was in rehab with a guy who was a lecturer at Kabarak University. And kwanza, you should host that fellow here. Imagine he went to rehab at the age of 50, bounced back, and is back lecturing. He really talks about these things. And he was a PhD guy, a professor. And all of us were reduced to one level.
Why you're all fighting with one thing?
By our addictions. It put us all. Also, the same rehab, iko na watu wa bodaboda, watu wa kokoteni, watu wa we are all reduced by
equality.
There's an equalizer there.
United by the problem.
United by the problem. I mean, just look at it. When you see smokers, siku hizi tumejenga Nairobi, there are cages for smokers. Look at the guys in the cage. CEOs are in the cage. It's funny, it's a cage.
Yeah.
CEOs are in the cage. the newspaper guy is in the cage.
In the cage, yeah. Shoeshine guy.
Shoeshine guy is in the same cage.
They're all equalized by
They're
the
equalized
smoke.
by the puff,
Yes.
by an addiction. You know, and they are sharing it. And the smokers have got this a big love between smokers. I puff, I give you, you puff, you give him. Corona inapita tu vizuri. Yeah? And we have no problem. Same, yani, these things, they have a way of not choosing. So they don't choose families either. I mean, I've seen rich people, kids in rehabs, struggling with the drink. You've seen poor people's kids in rehab from Dandora, from Gikomba, struggling with the same situation. And you know, we talk about it only when things happen that are so big, like wamama wa Murang'a wamesema wazee wafanyi kazi. Then we put a news item.
You look at it
Then
from the
we
comical
make
side.
memes out of it.
Yeah?
Then we make memes out of it.
We make memes out, yes, and we laugh. There's another one that was being shared about a guy falling into mud, and people are
I saw that.
you saw that one. They're sharing and laughing. That guy needs help. The guy who you see who struggling with Nini, you don't know his story. That guy needs help. Maybe he started to just like you, having a good time. Alafu akaenda deep in the abyss. So I think we really need to look at it, and it's unfortunate that even when we have bodies like Nakada, which have taken a lot of young people into it, you know, it's surprising how aloof they are. Maybe I don't know what Nakada does. Maybe sometimes they sit down and they just take what's it called? Maybe wanakunywa chai na mandazi supplied by the government. But you know, actively speaking, like I told you, rollout programs need to happen in schools. And if it were me, by the way, and I'm not pitching for a job, but I think the way we approach HIV/AIDS with counseling, we should use about the same way. Because if we are going to talk to children about alcohol and drugs in schools, let's show them the good, the bad, and the ugly. And the ugly has to be visual. These kids are very visual. Show them what could happen.
Yeah.
What the consequence.
They're the ones who need to see that video of that guy in the mud.
Yes. I even imagine that, you know, like road accidents. We have so many road accidents in this country, and yet a lot of us have never been to an accident site.
Yeah.
I wish in the driving schools there would be videos of accidents.
No, these guys are driving school now.
This is what could happen when you overspeed. This is what could happen when you drive drunk. Show us a very gory video that will shock us into the reality of the fact that people die. And real people like me and you die.
Wow.
For careless driving.
Even in alcoholism. I had a friend, let me just tell you, who was the daughter of the late cabinet minister, Vicky. You remember Vicky?
Yeah.
Vicky KONES?
Vicky KONES, yes.
Vicky KONES was my lecturer when I was in rehab. Wow. She had been in America just like me. We had interacted while she was there. She came back. You know, when she was there, she got into cocaine addiction. And one of the stories she was telling me was how, when her father heard about it, and he was very concerned, he took a flight all the way to the US. And she said she opened the door one day and her dad was there. He had heard about it kwa grapevine too. To a minister huko ako vibaya. She had lost 40 kilos. Unajua cocaine na kuchonga kweli kweli. And he told her, hey, I cannot take you home like this. Let me put you in a rehab. Then I will come back for you. Put her in a rehab and came back to Kenya. 2 months later, he died in a plane crash while she was there. She was brought from that rehab to his funeral. And she says when her father was put down at 5 o'clock, at 6 o'clock, she had relapsed.
Wow.
And lived a life of relapse until her brother died. And then she saw that, ninaenda vibaya, got into rehab, changed, became a lecturer. When she became a lecturer, now, and that was the time I went to rehab, we talked about that extensively. But you know what happened when I left rehab? About 3 years later, she had a boyfriend who died. And it's triggered something, and you know, she went back into addiction. I was trying to preach to her up to the moment of her death. Hata alikuwa ameenda rehab hapo Nakuru, but she died in addiction.
She relapsed again.
She relapsed and died in addiction. When we went to the funeral, her funeral 2 years ago, even the pastor who was the owner of the rehab where we had been was preaching, and he just broke down. He said, but you know, this lady, when she relapsed, ile sasa watu wakamwambia si ulikuanga lecturer wewe, hata ulikuanga umefanya, hata she had even done a diploma in addiction and counseling. Sasa una ile vitu unafanya, sasa una so much condemnation that person cannot get out. It's a slippery slope, and so what do? We pour oil on it. The slope is already so slippery. Tunaongeza oil, huyo mtu hata asipande. Unamwambia maneno and what. I really want to people who are on social media. In fact, one of the things that really does not amuse me is people who are on social media who are social media ninjas. Keyboard ninjas who are forever targeting people to tell them how terrible they are when they are having their shortcomings. it's lucky you will never see my name on a troll telling someone, you know, you're bures, you're what, but we have guys in Kenya, and it's such a bad behavior.
Yeah.
And you know, even when you're typing that thing, that could happen to you.
Yes.
To you. If somebody, you're trolling someone today because they were drunk yesterday and they were looking so stupid and what. I've seen them troll. They're not even ashamed. They troll even back at their first family. That could happen to you. These things are not...
They're not a pressure
for certain people. Hizi vitu ni zetu zote. We are all fallible human beings and we all have weaknesses. If you put a drink here today and I start, I can guarantee you I'll become a drunkard by the evening. We always say, shida si kukunywa, shida ni drink number 1. See drink number 20.
The first one.
If the first one can pull you in. So every day, the addiction say, we have a saying that just for today, let me stay sober. We don't count. That's why I tell you, we don't count that I've been sober 5 years. You say I was sober today. The aim of the game is to wake up in the morning and be sober leo. If we wake up tomorrow, we are sober leo. The next day like that. Eventually, you will see this is 10 years. But we do not focus on that because the moment we start saying we were sober 10 years, that is where we start going wrong. We think now we can take a break. Then we have 2 shots. See me kitu mimi najua. Si mimi ni gwiji kwa story. And then you realize that you have fallen down the wagon.
Okay. Wow. All right. There's something I would want to know.
Yes.
How you were treated affected you, especially by family? Does it still affect you today? Because when you were telling me about how your dad behaved, I mean, I could see some emotion. Does it still affect you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It affects you. How have you been able to handle it? And you know, there are people who imagine that the feelings, that because feelings are not something, it's not a furniture that you say, let's move it to another corner.
Yeah.
People underestimate the way people feel about things. And they imagine that, you know, Bana, move on. You should move on from that. It's done, it's in the past, move on from it. Where you sit now, do you feel those are things that still, when you sit down, it still catches up with you? And now you're able to deal with them?
They still catch up. They're those ones that don't go away. There are also feelings of also self-actualization that you also realize, I could have been so far, but I am not. You know, I could be much farther than I am, you know. But I also learned to count the blessings.
Okay.
So my relationship is not A100 with my dad. But it's good with
because of those things, yeah.
But it's good with somebody else. You know, it's good with the mother.
Like, do you kick your conversations with your dad? Like, okay, let's talk about stuff. It's hard. It's difficult.
Point, you know, even after I got married, it became a bit more difficult because even now my choices of marriage were not his choices. There was an issue with tribe, you know, because I went to to your home.
Welcome.
He did the proper ratio. And then I married a single mother with 2 kids. That brought about another stigma at that point in time. And it became difficult to...
Just when they thought now you are about to...
Then they find another problem.
But I'll tell you what. Those kids are the best thing that ever happened to me. I'm telling you. It changed me completely. I mean, look, at 35 years old, I was a single man with nothing.
Imagine.
No? I'm approaching 44 this year. I have 3 children. One has just finished Form 4. I was telling you.
I was surprised when you said that. And congratulations.
The other one is about to go to class 7. Yeah. And a baby who is 7 years old. And I am happy. You know, you know, the children really give you life. I mean, these kids, if you came to my home, you would imagine that we have been together since we were at 0 birth. It's how God can make and maneuver things. Paka hata saa zingine tunafanana. Kuna watu wanasema, I go to school and say, you look like your daughter. I laugh.
Anasema nyie mjui story.
Like really, maybe people have stayed together until they
even unakanga na bibi mpaka mnafanana.
Mpaka mnafanana. But you see, that I told even at that time when people were really fighting me in terms of the choice of marriage. See, marriage ni wewe utabaki na bibi. When you get home, you wewe na bibi yako. Si bibi ya community. Kama ni from ex community, ni bibi yako.
Bibi yako.
You have not married a community, you have married a wife. Yes. And if you look at all these wives on a balance, when they are in the home, they're not behaving like their community. They're behaving like their wife. They'll question you the same way you'll be questioned by
Kama ni unatoka wapi yote inafanana. Yote inafanana.
Where have you come from? These are standard.
And they have a right to it.
Kama ni who is learner is the same.
It's the same story.
Yes.
So you ask if they still follow me. Yes, but I talk to I try, and things like this really help me because I'm in forums and I'm in ministries where I talk about what happened.
Yes.
It helps me a lot gain perspective and also respect for people and their feelings. Like I told you, even with my terrible relationship in my own home, I don't take it badly because I do realize the places where I caused it.
Yeah. You take responsibility.
Sindio? Unajua sio, somebody cannot just be mad at you for nothing. Mtu amejitolea sana kukuelimisha, then you screw up. Then I also tell myself that for as long as I can be able to mend something, let me try. Do we talk? Hi. I think things like this also don't help because, I come on forums like this and then I am too candid and then unaambiwa sasa unajua ulisema vitu mingi sana.
Sema ni jana kwanza tuwezi ongea.
So in a trauma sort of, but you tell yourself it is your life.
Yes.
So in your life you can only be candid about the things you see from your perspective. There's a perspective they are seeing that's not yours.
Yeah.
What can you do about that? What can you do about what somebody else really thinks? Not so much. But does it hurt? Yes. Do I think it should have been better? Absolutely. I wish it could be better.
Yeah.
I wish it could be better. Do I regret? Yes, I do. I regret some things I did. Absolutely.
And there's a confusion that I was reading something the other day about, one thing about life is that it's not a charter territory. It's no formula to it. There's no menu that tells you this is how you need to live it. And it's not, you can never predict that this is how you're going to be. Like when you're growing up, you're like, by the time I'm 25, niko ni moa, niko na watoto, niko na kazi, nini. Then man, 35, you're still gallivanting around in the city. No house, no meaningful thing you're doing with your life. No, no nothing. You're just there. And there's something profound about life is, and this comes out very strongly from me. And this is a message that we'd want to have. We've had all these sad stories and all these conversations about the sad things that have happened. But this was a beautiful story of a restart in life. And it's never too late to have yourself right. Yeah. It's easy to be at a show and say, man, so even if I'm changing, what am I changing for?
Yeah.
I'm 35 in the next 5 years, probably I'm going to be 14. The next time, you start looking now on the times that you start looking at your end. When you're young, you look at the span like it's an horizon. The older you get, you start looking at your end.
True.
Like, is it worth it?
Yeah.
What am I changing for? You are making the decision, what is it for? And there's something I really want to say it coming strong is that despite all these things, Levy, you've had the beautiful opportunity to transform again and begin again and live life again in the best way that you could ever imagine. And you're happy about it. You have a family to go home to.
Yeah.
It could have been different 10 years ago. You'd have nothing to go back to. But now, even at your age, as you're saying, there are people who would say, Hapana, at your age, this is what you should be doing, or this is what should be happening. Now, at your age now, it's like you're 20. You're beginning your 20s or your 30s and all that. And the power of having the beauty of starting again and making a life, even after all the hopeless. There are people who are stuck with something today, and they're like, man, this thing is not even worth it. What am I changing for? And I've seen a lot of people who get there. Like, you get to a point where you look at your peers, and you're like, man, they're way ahead of you. They're doing different things with their lives. Yeah. And you're like, even if I'm beginning to start, now where do I start from? School, I've never finished school. I don't have a paper to my name. I don't have anything. You get it? And that beautiful story needs to come out. The fact that with nothing, you said you never finished anything in your life. The only thing you finished is a rehab. You had 3 months of which you came back and everything can change. It's been a journey for you. I would want to see that coming again, and someone getting an hope that you can actually start again.
Yeah. You can.
After all your mistakes. You can start again.
I went to school when I was 35 years old.
Yeah.
To start with a diploma then in community health. I was 35. There were kids who were 19, 20. The thing about starting again is when you recognize what you are doing yourself, it doesn't matter what's surrounding you. If you see that old man in class, there's a reason why he's there.
He's in class, yeah.
And his reason is much deeper than even some of the reasons that some people are seated there doing. And that drive of starting over is what keeps you going. Because with every day that passes, you tell yourself, look, you're just talking about seeing your end. And the excuse that people use the most to stay where they are is that thing of, you know what, I already messed up so much.
It's already too late.
It's already too late. Why can Harry Truman said, the 33rd president of the United States, he said, the time is always right to do what is right. The time is always right. If you have 2 years, this is what I reasoned with myself. Let me tell you the thing I reasoned. I was 35 years old. I asked myself one question. What if I only have 2 years to live? And even when I got cancer, I asked myself that, what do I have 2 years to, if I had 2 years to live, what would I do about it? Would I want to live it whining about the last X amount of years? Or would I want to say, let me make these 2 years as beautiful as they are?
That's possible.
Yeah? And by the way, you do not know. What if you have 40 and you're 40?
Yeah.
So
Means you've done half.
you have missed 40 years.
Yeah.
So tuzaliwe tena fresh tu.
Sasa unataka kumess 40 tena.
Nataka kumaliza tena ingine.
Yeah, na ushenzi. Because there's a good
Ni
chance
kama
you could
chakula
be
nusu
around
iko
here
imewekwa
at
sumu.
80.
Yeah.
You want to be an 80-year-old cranky man who spent 80 years messing up. If you spent 40 years messing up and you have realized they are 40,
Yes.
then change the next 40. And the interesting thing about change is so, I don't know, it's so infectious that people don't realize that you messed up for so long.
Wow. Incredible.
I mean, guys call me to a forum. But unaenda unaongelesha watu, wewe ni chief speaker. The people you're talking to, wako na madegree, wako 23, wako sijui, they are maybe senior managers who are 22 years. I was called to another forum, by the way, where I was to motivate. And I was shocked at the people I was talking to. And I was like, these dudes are doing a lot more things than I was doing
True.
when I was their age. But they want to listen to what I have to say.
Yeah.
It kind of gives you a feeling of self-worth.
Yeah.
That you're still worth something, even if you change today. I have a friend called David Ogot, and I think David Ogot would like me to say this story. He's
And you should bring him on board. One of
I'll
those
bring him
fine
on
days.
board.
You should bring him.
He grew up privileged. His parents was Professor Ogot and the late Ogot, assistant minister. You remember? Yeah?
Yes.
This guy went to India and got into addiction there. And came back a drunkard, nini, what? He changed at the age of 42.
Wow.
Wow.
Even his children had never seen him sober. One had even finished high school.
Never seen this guy sober.
Never seen this guy sober. He's 57. The things he has done in the last 15 years are incomparable to the first 42.
Wow.
Incomparable. I mean, there is always room, and heaven aligns itself to somebody who wants to try and do good. I mean, and even if you're a Christian and you look at the Bible is full of people who have done a lot of nonsense.
Yeah.
There are murderers in the Bible, like
David.
Paul.
Even David that God
Even
says he's the man of the God's own heart.
madem za watu.
Nyonga mtu achukue dem.
Nyonga mtu achukue dem yake. There are people who have done,
Worse things.
crazy things, and God has restored them and rebuilt them up. And who says? And what are the beautiful stories we like, gravitating to? We like stories of hope. Even in this country, we have a hustler dynasty narrative. Why do we like the hustler one so much? Because we are thinking of people who are down,
Yeah. Trying to come up.
who try to come up.
Yeah.
Everyone is thinking about that, in terms, that's a beautiful story. But if you are up and you are just given and you're given, it's not a really, okay, sawa, you are here, but it's not a very compelling story like the guy who was like Huko Chini. So I tell people, don't think about how late it has taken you
Yeah.
to start over. Just start over. Just start over.
Yeah.
For as long as you are breathing, may I say, as long as you can do,
There's always an opportunity to change.
we only die when we are in the ground, bana.
Kama bado tuko hapa juu.
It's
we
only
can always do
over when
things
we are
about it.
being put inside there.
Okay.
But for as long as we are up above ground, bana, Buddha, even today, if you lost your business and you are zero and you are breathing, si unaanza tena.
You start again.
Anza tena.
Yeah.
All right, Eriko.
Yeah.
Tana kupenda
I
nafasi.
think the beauty of the story of my brother here is that it is relevant whether we are looking at a change both from keeping the people. You remember we were giving the example last week of saving the man who is drowning.
Yeah.
And we were saying that saving the man who is drowning does not mean that you're telling those who have not jumped into the river to jump into the river. And I think what I like about the story of our brother is that he is very, very relevant in talking to both groups, both the people that have not been into alcohol and addiction and the people who are in alcohol and addiction.
And those who are almost getting there.
Yeah, and he should be celebrated as a hero in terms of getting the courage of character to tell the story and to own the story, like he says, because a lot of us men struggle with that, particularly when it comes to talking about our failures, the things we didn't do right. And you see, now the problem becomes that we continue having a cycle in society where the young men will always repeat the mistakes that their fathers made. The young men will always repeat the mistakes of their forefathers. But if we can encourage, the emotional security that is required for people to tell their stories, let the young men hear what drugs can do. Let the young men hear what alcohol can do. And let us be willing to model the right way that, for us to be able to do the things that we need to achieve, these are the things that we need to avoid or even do in moderation. Thank you so much, bro. I think we should be looking forward to more forums, Bitok, where we can have speakers like...
we should actually, when we restart, once we restart Boy Child Talk, we can have him.
Yeah, and for the people that are listening out there, you see, for us here, it's a show. Maybe it's a conversation we're having, an emotional one, a real one. But there's someone who is watching us from somewhere. Maybe they don't even want to be known. They're watching a show concerning addiction, and they're looking at their lives and they are seeing themselves in the story of our brother. They feel, this is exactly my story. And I think they need to hear it out, that it is never too late to make a positive change. And I think for me, my take home is also the perspective of supporting the people who are having this struggle. Some of them are our own family members. The way we look at it, sometimes we get mad at them because we are like, you've had the same opportunities as me. You've had the same opportunities like every other person. But I think we need to understand that every person has got their own weaknesses. And for that reason, every person is going to require, different support for them to become who they are supposed to be. I mean, there's someone who is born and is completely into sports. But in that same family, he could be the only person doing sports. The same way, there could be one person who is going to be prone to particular weaknesses than the other person. But there's one thing he said which is very powerful, that the journey of change must start with the person who is addicted, even if it is prompted from somewhere else.
It has to begin with you. It has to be you realizing
that person has to really, really cooperate. And so for the people that are listening and maybe they're in this situation, I think we need to remind them that, like we say, you can take a cow to the river, but it's difficult to force that cow to drink the water. So they have to be willing to cooperate, to go to rehabs and all that, and also to take the challenge. We all have gone to school with people, and we can look back and see a few of our classmates
who are
struggling with something. Our brother tells stories of people who helped him. Maybe we also need to ask ourselves,
who are we helping?
Who can we help? Maybe you may not be able to help 10 people in a year, but if you help one person per year, in the next 10 years, you will have helped 10 people. If 100 people are doing that, we are talking about changing 1,000 people. And I think that is a good cause to also live for.
And I think their own help, it's prudent that I say this, and I even tell my children and my wife, make it also a life's purpose to help someone who can never, ever repay you back. Find somebody. It's easy to help me, tunajuana. Maybe I'll give you something else later. We rub each other's shoulders. But make it to also look for somebody
will never pay
who cannot even be possibly able
to pay you back,
to return. Help that guy, maybe get his life back on track. Help him even. And sometimes with helping, there can be disappointment. You might help somebody and it doesn't work out.
True.
But just try. Maybe that one person who's going to work out just needed your link. Sometimes help is like picking a phone call and calling somebody and saying, hey boss, unaandika watu, so saidia ujamaa hivi. We are so lazy even for such things. That as it costs pesa sana. Just a connection, saying, hey, so and so, go and see so and so. And then what you have said is very important in terms of starting with you. I was going to just mention, the story of the prodigal son was one of the things I read the most when I was in the rehab. And one of the touching things is that the prodigal son got to a point where he said, I will go back to the father. The fellow had been eating food, pigs. Nobody could talk to him at that point in time. He had to come to a point where his decision to go is the one that caused things to change. So maybe you want to change and you don't know how to make a big way. You don't have to stand and make a declaration on national newspapers or on Twitter or Facebook or whatever. This guy was making a declaration in a big style, solo. Make a declaration for yourself where you are.
And start making a turnaround.
What I mean, jaribu tu. Then make an effort to, I'm tired of the way I'm living. Let me try. After all, if you try, die trying. 50 Cent said. Die trying.
All right. Look at the comments on YouTube. Let me look at YouTube. King of somebody says, good morning. Mr. checking in. Asante sana. Martin Warui checking in. Gerald, good morning to you, my brother Martin. Good to see you. Joel Gilbert, good morning. Gilbert Bowen, good morning. Sorry, I'm a bit late to the show. It's raining cats and dogs. Uzuri, me now. Thank you so much, my brother. Karibu. Zuki Vivian should be interesting. Asante. Peter Cherop. Levy was a good boy in Sacho. Sema ulikuwa nao kwa sacho. Alina Smith says interesting conversations. I can relate. I like it. Thank you so much. Peter Cherop says yes, we talk was 2 years behind him. His group was total failure and discipline. His issues likely started in high school. No, it was sacho.
Huyu mtu ni
It was sacho.
And by the way, 95, he's right. In the year 1995, historically, in Sacho High School, was the 1 year that the school dropped out of the gazeti. Unakumbuka ile gazeti ilikuwa inachapishanga 1 to 20. Our year,
Mulianguka.
we were not in the newspaper.
Makurui.
It was a terrible year. It was but you know, by the way, Cherop, our guys are doing very well right now,
in the school life.
School of life.
If you look at my boys club up or my Sacho boys, guys, one is a KRA manager, another one is in Safaricom Top Dog, another one is a pilot.
This is how we summarize it. And they are now the ones writing the news.
Guys are doing very well.
They're the ones now in the newspaper.
One is Chief Pilot 540, by the way. Look him up.
540. Interesting. So it means actually the hope of all things can turn. And I mean, anyway, we'll tell this story someday. When we should get another session again. We tell all these stories. All right. Daniel Birkan says great story of hope. Michael Korir is very relevant story. Yeah, someone shared with me what they are undergoing with their brother who even sold his father's mattress just for the love of the bottle. I will share this video with her. Please share the video with her. I mean, if this can help us change a life, it's the most incredible thing we'll ever do. Okay, Facebook pale Likisara Jebore says good morning GB, Jamjam Jugoro, asante sana Jagekon, watching from Kangware, Roboni Kabilat, kids opening in style after out holiday season. Hi, Benjamin Okero Howori, anasema good morning to my brother Benjamin Okero Tuari, good morning. Lil Koima, good morning from Mama Africa. Good morning to my brother Lil Koima Nancy Theuri, good morning tuned in kabisa. Asante kusema Desam, good morning. Mishuke Daniel, good morning. Tetako, good morning to Ernest Jeriot, good morning. Leo Nikoloa Karenuko Kibra, asante sana my brother. Keep pushing, keep walking. Aiva Japkioza, good morning Gerald. Salimia Levi Kones na akislide DM pia kuna shida. Umesikia bwana. Umesikia vile mambo ilienda. Mtu aliokoka achana na hiyo maneno. Ungetafuta Yesu kwa America. Can try. Anasema good morning to Liki Otenyo, morning president wa Lanyasi. Asante sana. Hii ndio rais pekee. Kipkali Arab Koski anasema tuned in from Ruiru. Good morning my brother GBC I2 wakubwa. Amesalimika Carlton Kipkuru sang. Good morning Eric Mambusa na kuona Kimbit live from Karen. Daisy Maritime MCA mheshimiwa Utawala. Anasema good morning Utawala yote tuko ndani. Asante Jimmy Kakio. Good morning Louis Mwangi. Anasema Eric Mwangi sharing this hii ni serikali. Asante sana serikali ya the Mwangis. Na amekuja chini ya maji. Hey, good morning to you Lois Mwangis. Good to see you. Ruchap Kosgei, good morning from Kwale County. Asen Alexis, good morning Sergoi niko ndani. Likisara anasema the story of Levy. Enyewe muyu wa mwema. Evans Arab Seronei, good morning GB from Nakuru. Asante Jeffrey Njagi anasema Ngaji. Good morning. Good morning to my brother. Naona pia Cleophas Tenara Makawa anasema good morning. I've moved from to Eldoret from Kipchaba 029. Now niko Sisibo. Asante sana. Wewe mtu mzanzama good morning to Tackles Barweti student. Asante sana watu wa mtaa. Rebecca Karoki. Good morning Tackle team watching from Naivasha. Moses Kamau anasema Levy Kones always an inspiration. Love listening to him at Fish FM. Yani hiyo time yote I was listening to you ulikuwa ndima. Ulikuwa maji.
Haikuwa yote boss.
Ndio nabambika na stories zako
bado. Ulisikia ile siku nilikuwa sawa.
Ulikuwa waba.
Nilikuwa sawa.
Haya Doro Zamaro GB good to see you. Doro there from America. Doro ile sasa that is my homemate. Unajua na Doro? Unajua Doro
Vizuri sana.
Okay, anasema nyinyi ni homemate.
Kwani
Doro ni LD?
Ni Eldoret.
Oh really?
Oh
interesting. Okay.
Doro, you need to talk to this fellow. Mwambie
Doro is a good friend of mine. Aja to catch up on with fun days. Amejificha kama amekataa kurudi nyumbani lakini sawa. Kimalel sana Igoma tuko ndani. Asante sana Kimalel. I think this guy was in school with him. I think so. I think I was in school with this guy. Haya, Asen Alexis anasema
sasa huyo alikuwa maji. Nakumbuki tulikuwa shule.
Mazen haya. Hiyo maji nayo tulikuwa tunapiga msee.
That's a problem.
Tutakuja tema story siku moja tutakuja kusema yote vile iko. Tuliza mpaka mahindi ya shule bwana.
Wewe uliuza mahindi ya shule?
Bwana, tupige kitu.
Ulikuwa wapi?
Bwana jana hiyo story tutasema next on Monday. Sasa Monday tageuza hivi tutakuja hiyo upande. Tuseme story. We all love stories but we come from somewhere. And we've all had our own tararons which is very key. We love the stories. And listen someone unachoma. Haya But it's life is God is faithful. Lois your story, Mr. Kones, is inspiring. May we learn from your experience and be better. Yes, true. Levy, write a book and perhaps a guide to the youth. What happened is life, but the book and perhaps guide and procedures will really guide the youth. You can be agent of change. Perfect example using your pain and trials for the better. In fact, you should be a key guide in the rite of passage. All the best. Okay,
Who
I think you're
that?
writing a book. This is a memo.
I am writing a book.
Okay.
I'm almost done. I've actually been off Facebook for that reason.
I tried looking for you. I could not find you.
I'm not on Facebook. I've not been on Facebook for 9 months.
Wow, interesting. Almost clocking a year.
It's been very, by the way, you should try it. No, you can't try it because
Unataka nimwage unga.
Live is on Facebook.
you should try it, by the way.
Nataka kutingiza debe ya unga.
It has been very peaceful. There are so many things I've not found out. I realize I used to
Unasikianga tu story kwa kando kama Uhuru. Wewe na Uhuru mko WhatsApp group.
Ulitoka hizo ma Facebook.
But I'm coming back in June.
Okay.
I can't live without it in terms of what I need to do, but naandika kitabu. In fact, I was writing this chapter this weekend. It's interesting that he was insisting on this story of Safari America.
Your story iko hapo.
I was writing this chapter this weekend, and there are other stories I did not say specifically because I want this book to, hold some water. But hii life tumekuwa na mambo mingi. Yeah, the book is called "There Is No Useless Experience."
Wow,
coming out soon.
Wow. You're waiting. You'll be the first buyers of the bond. We'll review it here.
You'll review it.
We'll review it right here. First ikitoka tutapiga review. Hapana, hadi ichome tunakutengeneza soko.
First of all, for us to review, we have to buy the book.
Yes.
We have to buy it.
Buy it from you. And we'll review it here.
No, it has said
We'll tell people
there are
to
some
buy.
very dark things I say about myself. So naona mtachoma hapo.
Which is good. Hizo madak ndio tunataka sasa.
But it's the one who have said, so...
Tayari una shida, unafungua roho. Fungua bwana. Fungua watu wapone. Fungua watu wapone. Ile nikiambiwa sama history yako maze, I'm crying and laughing at the same time. Semanga uko kwetu nasema tupcha raria tagme. Thank you so much, Mr. Kones. You have really inspired me this morning. Owning up to your dark past, that's courage and wisdom. Have you ever thought of starting a talk show to reach young people who could be in the same path you are taken hard in your life? Haya, yuko hapa tayari. So, I mean,
niko kwa talk show.
Yes, yuko kwa talk show tayari. And some of the honesty in Levy stories inspiring. These are Daisy Maritim. Rikieta anasema exactly my thoughts. Cheria clear anasema the past is never forgotten. Jira Bitok, Levy's life journey is encouraging to many. Asante sana. Jogi anasema bro, I have a brother who has a drinking problem. Where we start in trying to help him. I think please Jackie, I can share your number. I'll give it to Levy. Tafadhali tupia namba yako kwa inbox. Haraka upesi alafu nitapea Levy alafu mzungumze. Uone. Please share that number then he'll call you. Okay. Naona Lexi G amemsha Chiri Mutai anasema inspiring indeed. Grace Muraguri anasema I have a childhood friend, very brilliant, top our class, joined prestigious high school, left at the bottom, drugs truancy in his odd jobs that fuel his addiction. I've tried looking for his phone number. Where does one start to reach out? Please try and find him. We can try and have a conversation with these people. Just find their contacts. We'll try and reach out to these people. Tafadhali Grace, tafuta hiyo number alafu tutajua inakuwa vipi. Jen Mumbi anasema Levy ananijenga sana. Be blessed. Asante sana. Henry Koloma anasema Levy, you are killing the show. He could make a good Nakada chairman because of your experience. Haya, by the way, we should have people that experience leading those places. How can we have someone who is clean, a pastor, teaching us about drugs? You've never tested it.
Yeah.
Ujai kunywa pombe, the magic is to condemn. But when you're speaking from experience, is to guide and to restore. Becky anasema morning tackle salimia Kones sana. Call Kipu anasema Levy was my cameraman during my wedding. Umekuwa mpaka cameraman.
Oh yeah. By the way, that time the guy who says I was a cameraman, when I came back, those are some of the things I did. Mimi nimejaribu bana kuhustle. Nilikuwa cameraman kwa maharusi, na nikajaribu kuwa na nini kufanya ma video. Nikaanza kuwa MC. Na MC, by the way, watu walikuwa people really wanadharau MCs ukianza.
Let me encourage you. There is no useless experience.
Nilikuwa MC bana, naitwa anapatiwa tu sahani ya pilau, naambiwa
unaambiwa bana, asante sana.
Asante, thank you.
Kula pilau usonge.
Niliteswa kwa watu wa Eldoret hii walitesa.
Hawalipangia watu.
Walinitesa.
Lakini siku hizi wanalipa, nasikia wanalipa siku hizi.
No, wanalipa majina kubwa lakini sasa unajua
ukianza wewe ni pilau.
Kama jina yako
ukianza ni pilau.
Haijafika pale juu.
Yeah.
Unaitwa na but even that hustling was also very useful.
There's no useless experience.
Yes.
We want to remind you. Abas Juguna.
Umeshashika hiyo maneno.
Abas anasema can the visitor advise those young men and women who get abroad and in a few weeks if not months see themselves as having reached, quote kufika. Clubbing and partying becomes sort of the day, and I'm not suggesting they should not enjoy themselves. I think that should be your last part, your parting shot. Watu wanaenda America ama wanaenda huko nje, they feel like nimefika. start figuring drink, madam, nini.
Yeah.
What do you want to tell them? When it gets to a point where they have to come back with a t-shirt and a short,
Yeah.
what's the message you want to tell these guys?
There's a freedom that comes from going abroad and being on your own. And it's a very misleading freedom. I think it starts from those people. Let me start from their parents before I even go to them. One of the things I'm doing as a parent is I'm trying to teach my children the value of money. I realize that, as you look back at my own life, I see the flaws. And one of the flaws was I didn't learn about the value of money. There's no day my dad sat me down and talked to me about, how he makes his money and the fact that he pays taxes and, I was just a kid who was provided for. And when you're provided for, there's an illusion that these things are always there. I mean, rent imelipwa, mnaishi, power iko, those kind of things. You don't know the nitty-gritty. So I encourage parents to begin with, start teaching your children about money. Me, I tax my kids. I'm telling you. They ask for pocket money of 2,000. I pay 1,400. 600 ni serikali.
Unapiga ushuru.
They begin to realize,
Wewe na Jubilee mna tofauti.
Serikali inauma kubwa. And I teach them, the ones that have piggy banks, the small ones, I teach them about withdrawals. They have a book they keep. Where piggy bank wako nayo? Where they deposit, and when they do, they write, and they have to write the reason why they're doing it and that kind of thing. And they have a limit to their withdrawal because that's how life is.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I don't want them to be lost as adults for things that I may not have taught. Now, we cannot teach everything as parents, but we have to try to do that. And money is one of the things we don't teach children.
Yeah.
Let's teach children about money. Let them make money from you. Kama anaosha gari, wacha lipae kamshahara. You also teach them that a good worker is paid, but you also teach them that you have to work to get paid.
Get paid, yeah.
You understand? Teach them, take them to the banks when they're early, show them the procedures, show them mambo ya M-Pesa. Kwanza siku hizi kuna mobile money, and mobile money loans are killing people. Talk to them about it.
True.
This is what's happening with mobile money. This is why you should not take it at this point in time. This is what's happening. This, you take it for an emergency, this kind of thing. So I encourage parents to start that. And if you're a child who maybe is going abroad, and maybe that did not happen to you, the way it did not happen to me, nobody taught me. As soon as you get abroad, one of the first things you have to do is take time to learn the territory that you're in. And when I'm talking about learning the territory, I'm not talking about buildings and I'm talking about systems and ways of life. It's upon you as a young person to find somebody who is making it, to begin to ask, how do things happen around here? Ukiingia tu kama umekuwa mjuaji utachoma. And then the thing about partying is this: parties don't end. I'm in my 40s now. I can go to any party I want to. Sasa nilikuwa nakimbia nini ikiwa 20. And nobody cares if I sleep. Maybe my wife only will ask me, but nobody cares out here whether I slept in my house yesterday or not, or I drank all my money on Thursday or not. There's a time and a place for everything under the sun. And because the crucial time there, I keep telling my daughter, she had a boyfriend during the pandemic, and this jamaa bwana alikuwa anazungusha ina maneno mingi. Niambie, look, wewe unaanza maneno mapema sana hapa hivi. When you have sex with this guy, you will not eat sex. You will not eat sex. Even if I tell you niwafungie kwa room, you will not have sex 24/7. You will have to wake up and eat something. You have to wake up and say, I want clothes. You have to wake up and brush your teeth. Those are things that cost money. Sex does not put
money on the table.
Food on the table.
Unless you're doing it for business.
So we focus on the things that we can focus on now, because other things will come. If it's love, love is coming. We are in our 40s, we still love people. Sindio?
Watu wengine walikuwa nafikiria ukienda utakufa.
There's a time and a place. So the only thing I can tell those guys is, learn from examples of people, and also find mentors, people who can show you the right things. Because partying, anybody can party. Anybody can party, but not anybody can build wealth. So find the right people.
It takes any fool to party.
The Dandora guy can party, and the Runda guy can party. But not anybody can build wealth.
But when you leave the bar, that's when you realize
when you
realize you're different.
You are different.
Mali unaelekea. Ula kichora Runda, unaanza kutafuta
korogocho. There is no hero, by the way, let me just finish. There is nobody who is a hero for buying people drinks.
Okay. Hakuna mtu ambayepewa award.
Tununua drinks tukalipa pesa, watu siwalisahau you. There is no hero for drinks. Ati uliswipe 40,000 jana. We will celebrate you.
Vasha.
On the table.
Story inaishia hapo.
But story inaishia hapo.
Kwanza uzame ndio utajua.
Hakuna plaka.
Zama kidogo.
Haitaenda kwa CV.
Haitaenda kwa CV. There are no certificates for bowling. There are no certificate for bowling.
Okay. Eric, your parting shot.
I think good reflections. To see that from the title of our brother's book is no useless experience, whether good or bad. But it would be good if we put more effort in learning from the bad experiences of others as compared to experiencing the same in our own lives. I think it's been a very good show in reflecting and in looking forward to the life ahead of us, and even on how we bring up our kids, how we guide the younger people, and how also we learn from the older people as people who are in the middle age. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. Thank you, Levy, for being candid enough and open enough.
Yeah.
I mean, with that, we can change our life. Chris Kamau, asante sana on YouTube, and I'm enjoying the show. Asante sana. Naona pia Samuel Kiera anasema I think Levy was in Impossible sometime by Consistent TV. Is he the one? Yes, ni huyo. Asante sana, guys. It has been a pleasure being with you. This has been the Tackle Common Sense edition, and the Tackle Common Sense edition ends now. Until tomorrow. See you. Bye-bye. Take care.